All right. Hello, everybody. This is a special late night edition of the stream because someone had a lot of thoughts on Tesla and they just needed an outlet to express all of those thoughts. And they said, you know what? We need to go live to talk about it. So, yeah, pretty much for the next hour, I will be live with, I'm pretty sure you guys already guessed who it's going to be, but here he is. It's time to
I
talk.
figured we were going to be on the phone anyway. We might as well just do it live.
That's true. We might as well do it live. Okay, before we get into Tesla, can you just acknowledge this is one of the most beautiful pumps ever right now, after hours?
Oh, why? Because we're starting to get back to where we were?
I mean, it's better than going lower. I mean, Powell's up 4%, Tesla's up 5%, Nvidia's up 4%, S&P's up 1%, Hood's up 6%.
I will give you that it is better than the alternative, without a question.
We were already up 2% on the day, so this is like
a
good.
Pump. Keep going.
This is not bad pumped. Noah says, I've never been so happy to see a middle-aged white man.
I will say that your chat always cracks me up.
Dude, this is your show. This is really your channel. I'm just here to press go live for you, to be honest. But all right, so we'll talk more about macro a little bit later. But I mean, Tesla, Steve had to leave in the middle of the call, so he can give his thoughts now. What was your raw takeaways from that earnings call?
So try to sound more enthusiastic. I mean, that call put me to sleep. But I mean, look, this was damage control. This was nothing other than damage control. He said everything he needed to say to put a Band-Aid on Q1 earnings. And it was very important that he came out and said that he would be stepping away from Doge to a degree. And it was very important to discuss Optimus. Now, the numbers that I'm seeing, calling for 1 million robots by 2030, maybe 2029. Let's say 2030. Say through 2029, we get 1 million robots. Okay? Yeah, he's not leaving Doge, but he's going to split his time, which is better than what Tesla shareholders have now. Mm-hmm. It's a step in the right direction, but he was clear he's going to stay there for the next 4 years. So, see how that goes. But 1 million Optimus robots at a $25,000 price point is $25 billion. I mean, I don't know that we should be jumping for joy on that number because at a 30% margin, that's $7.5 billion of profit from now until 2030. So, I mean, the next 4.5 years, I don't know that that's anything to get really crazy about. I think this is more a stepping stone in the right direction for Tesla.
Let me back up a second for people that are missing context. So Elon said on the call they would get 1 million Optimus bots sold by 2030, maybe 2029. You're saying, all right, probably 25,000 a pop, 30% margins is what you're putting, right?
Well, that's what I was seeing on Twitter.
So that results in $7.5 billion of profit, and you're saying that's not exciting. I agree. What if he's sandbagging it? And what if it's going to be 10 million, which I know is kind of crazy, but how do you rationalize it?
All right, so let's add a zero. That's 75 billion in profit over the next 4 years. Why are we getting excited over this? Here's why I say that. Nvidia is going to do more than that in a single year.
That's fair.
Now here's my problem. And it all comes back to valuation. And I'm a Tesla shareholder. I think that this call is an inflection point. Tesla has the potential to become the biggest company in the world. I don't think anybody can disagree with that because I'm saying potential. It may not happen. This is a very good step in the right direction. But even if we add a zero and you get 10 million bots by 2030, 75 billion profit over the next 4 years. So you're talking about, on an annualized basis, 18.75 billion in profit. if they're able to scale at the same trajectory. That's going to make Tesla, okay, maybe $25-30 billion a year. So why are they getting such a higher valuation than all these other companies? You're still talking about a company that's over 700 billion market cap, and they just generated $420 million in net income this quarter. Like, really think about those numbers for a minute. They are the 7th or 8th largest company in the market, and they couldn't even produce $1 billion in net income this quarter. That's scary. Now, automotive, as I showed in that chart, we don't know if this is an anomaly or not. And the next 2 quarters are going to be a real telltale if the Tesla brand is completely damaged or if this quarter becomes an anomaly. But $13.97 billion in revenue has not been seen since Q3 2021. So you're telling me that there's all this growth for Tesla vehicles, yet they just posted a quarter that set them back years?
I mean, we can't sugarcoat it. If this was any other company, the stock would be down 20% minimum.
100%. There's no question about that. No question about that. This was not a great quarter for a company that's a $700 billion company. This would be a great quarter for a company that was a smaller company. But given its size, Tesla is all about future potential. But there's no guarantee he gets 10 million robots by 2030. I mean, he said 1 million.
I would say it's very unlikely we get 10 million robots by 2030.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he's sandbagging, and a more realistic sandbagging number is 2 million instead of 10 million. So let's just double it. Okay. That's 3.75 billion extra net income a quarter. Does that really move the needle? I mean, think about all that growth. Everybody's always talking about all this growth that's not factored in yet. Well, okay. We're doing the numbers. He keeps saying 25,000 price point. Let's give him a 30% profit margin. That's 15 billion in net income on $50 billion of revenue over the next 4.5 years. It's great. I'm not mad at that. I'm happy about it, but I don't think it's going to help the valuation because the valuation is still too expensive. And I'm not getting sold on autonomous by any means. I mean, we can get into that aspect, but I mean, the robots is the future of the company. And he needs to be talking about a plan to really get to 5 or 10 million bots a year.
Well, there's no way that's happening in 5 years. I mean, the manufacturing capabilities aren't there for that many bots. Like, not yet.
Here's where I give him a lot of credit. He's sitting on over 30 billion in cash.
37.
And if anybody can scale to make a couple of million robots a year, it's going to be Elon. So I wouldn't say that he can't do it. Certainly has the war chest to pull it off. It's just, is he going to do it? Because this is the future of the company. Because think about it like this. Let's say hypothetically the Tesla brand for vehicles is destroyed. Let's assume it keeps going down. Let's assume that his original base is not going to be purchasing Teslas after the current Tesla is off, and the new base isn't really going to move to an EV. Okay? If that premise is correct, then you have to rely on the bots. And the vehicle business, which was the bedrock of this company,
sucks.
It's going in the wrong direction now. Like, I can't get past, we haven't seen a quarter like this since 2021.
Well, so the Tesla bulls will say that it's a supply chain Model Y issue. It's not a demand issue. Negative 20% year-over-year growth is obviously not the best. How would you reconcile that?
That's a pretty simple one to reconcile. You could have given me a harder question than that. I mean, they produced in Q1 362,615 vehicles. Okay. If it was a supply chain problem instead of a demand problem, their total deliveries would have been the same number.
Well, there's an argument about the Model Y ramp and people waiting to buy until the new Model Y comes out. Like there are some legitimate claims.
Okay.
To the supply
And that's why we need to see if this is going to be an anomaly or not.
I agree.
And we need 2 quarters. And I said that from the beginning that we need 2 quarters, that maybe this is an anomaly, maybe it's not. But if the Tesla brand erosion is really there, he needs to be a first mover in robots, because then he'll be the only game in town and everybody will be forced, regardless of what they think about the Tesla brand, to buy the bot, because their competitors are going to be buying them. So they won't have a choice.
Well, let's be honest about this. Let's transition a little bit more to the bot. Do you think by 2030, you'll be able to buy a bot in your house?
I don't think so. I think that all of those are going to be big purchase orders from the very big manufacturing companies, because 1 million bots isn't really that much when you think about how many warehouses there are. So I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon comes out with a purchase order for 50,000 or 100,000, if Walmart comes out with a purchase order, and Target and all these other places, Costco, and then FedEx, UPS. I mean, I would not be surprised if they get purchase order after purchase order, and you're not able to get a bot for not at least 5 to 10 years. But it also depends how much they ramp on it.
Well, I'm in agreement. I don't think people can buy the bot in their house by 2030. I don't. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic here, but I think the Walmarts and Amazons of the world will have them by 2030. I think to have a working, functioning robot in your house in the next 5 years, to have the AI that's ready for it to be able to like not kill you and walk around and do the dishes, I still think we're far away. And even if we're far away, how many do we sell?
I mean, Rogan will have one. He'll give one to Rogan.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian will have one.
Yeah, certain people will have them, but the regular people like you and me will not be able to get our hands on it for probably 7 to 10 years.
And I mean, if we do get it, it's not going to be $25,000. We're going to have to pay $100,000, or
it better be 25,000.
But I'm saying by 2030, it's not going to be for you or I. For the corporations, maybe, right? For Amazon.
No, I mean, he hasn't had 2 different price points on the vehicles. I can't see him doing that.
I don't think people are going to be able to buy this thing for 25,000 until they have economies of scale, and they need massive economies of scale. By the way, there are competitors. People forget there's Figure, there's Epicon.
I also think that they're going to have very big purchase orders too. If the product, like, I haven't seen those products, but I'm going to assume that they're going to be comparable to Optimus, and if they are, they will get purchase orders the same way as Tesla. I don't think that you're going to be able to facilitate the demand off the bat. So I think the first couple of companies to market are going to win.
Okay, so you are upset on Tesla earnings because the auto numbers sucked. The Optimus numbers aren't projecting to be super exciting. And then the FSD story, you don't believe it.
No, I'll go off on a tangent about FSD in a moment. But what's the next biggest company to Tesla?
You mean in terms of potential?
No, just market cap. I hate using Berkshire because they're such an.
I'll tell you right now, Tesla's. Oh, it's Broadcom or TSMC.
All right, so let's look at TSMC.
By the way, thank everybody for being here. This is a special late night episode discussing Tesla with Steve.
So you got Taiwan Semi, $666 billion company. Okay. This is a perfect example because Tesla, I don't have the updated data for Tesla, but just on 2024's revenues, Tesla did 97.7 billion and Taiwan Semi did 94.4. So very similar. All right. Yeah. Tesla's profitability was 7 billion and Taiwan Semi did 39 billion. I mean, they did 5x the net income, yet they're a smaller company.
But I think this paradigm doesn't make sense. Tesla doesn't trade on net income multiples.
I get that, but the whole thing has been potential and growing into evaluation. People have been giving Tesla the benefit of the doubt for the past decade on that. For the past decade. And now we're seeing the automotive segment crumble. We're seeing top and bottom line misses, and we're seeing numbers coming out for how many robots they can generate, and it's not going to move the needle on net income. And if it doesn't really move the needle on net income, it's not going to move the needle on earnings. So how is it going to grow into the valuation over the next 5 years when you have companies that are smaller doing significantly more net income on a lower revenue number?
Wow, but that's been the story for the past decade with Tesla.
But can that remain the story for the next decade?
I mean,
When
why
there are
wouldn't it?
other places to put your money.
But why wouldn't it? It's Elon. Like, this stock should be down 30% right now, and it's up.
And at some point, I think that argument / investment thesis is going to die off. Maybe it doesn't.
No, but what would be the reason for why? Why would people just now stop believing in Elon if they believed in him for 20 years?
I think that the climate has changed, and I really think it's going to be very difficult for him to gain back trust with the people that he lost.
I think, okay, so that gets us into brand image, and I'm curious what everyone in the chat has to say about this as well. By the way, Intel looks like they're doing a 20% layoff. Stock's up 3% overnight. So we do have some layoff news for Intel. I think, and Chris made this point on the market close, people have a short memory, right? Like, now Elon's stepping from Doge. He might not be with Air Force One with Trump. Like,
no. You got to understand, this administration, there's never been an administration that has been hated by the people that did not vote for that administration as this one. I'm telling you, it's going to be very difficult for him to come back on a brand. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but I maybe it's where I live. I don't know.
I think, look, Elon said he's stepping back from Doge. That was bullish. He's not necessarily stepping back from his political views. He's very vocal, and he doesn't care what anyone thinks. But if he does stop commenting on every single political issue in our lifetime, or maybe even if he doesn't, I still think people, if they like the car or they like the robot or they like the cybercab experience, they're gonna go with it.
I don't think so, but maybe. I think him stepping away from Doge at least puts him in a position to help navigate Tesla and get things done quicker. Now, the only thing that is going to save the car brand at this point is if autonomous driving becomes real nationwide and you can actually take a nap in the car. And if they're the only ones that can do that, then it doesn't matter because everybody's going to get that if it's affordable. And at that point, it becomes engineering and best product takes all because there's nothing comparable.
And that might take some time, right?
That's not going to take some time. Look, I could have bought a Tesla and I didn't because I'm not getting an EV until it can drive me around and I can sleep in the car.
Well, also, you love gas guzzling freaking American. Like, you have you don't love the sleek feel of no sound, no engine, just beautiful EVs. That's your issue.
I would if it would drive me around.
FSD is getting good, bro.
I know it's getting good. I'm just saying that
can't sleep yet in the car, but
once you can sleep in the car, I'll buy one.
But you're not even going to go to sleep in the car. So why is that?
No, but I'm just using it as an example because if you can sleep in the car, then you can work in the car, you can do emails, all that other stuff.
Look, it's a fair point. point. Look, in the context of the actual earnings, it was a disgusting earnings. But again, I think it was baked in, which is why we didn't see the stock in the low 200s.
Definitely baked in.
So anyone who bought puts on it, I mean, like you had to really think it would be so egregious, and it still was so egregious. But you kind of had to believe it would be even worse, and it just wasn't. And then number two, again, the reason Microsoft doesn't get the multiple Tesla does, even though they produce way better numbers, is because everyone thinks Microsoft is old, boring, and they're not going to triple or forget even tripling double anytime soon. People think Tesla can 10x. And so if people think Tesla can 10x, you're going to pay a higher multiple than a stock like Microsoft that's boring and might not ever get to 5-6 trillion.
But at some point, if Tesla was to 7x from where they finished 2024 in, okay?
Yeah.
They would still generate less net income.
But it would be a $9 trillion company. So
no, but that's my point. If they 7x, it would still be a less net income than Apple or Alphabet or Microsoft, most likely.
Yeah.
Based on the 2024 numbers, if we're going by that. And if its market cap kept up with how it's been, it would be a vastly larger company than those companies are. And that's my fear with this, that we've already set a standard of how much profitability the market needs to see from a $3 trillion plus company, because we have three of them. And they're all very similar in their profitability. And the fear is that Tesla is not going to be able to get there anytime soon. I mean, what's it going to take for Tesla to get to 90 billion profit?
How much they did 400 million this quarter, right?
420 million.
It's kind of an epic number.
It kind of feels like he's trolling a little bit with that. Like he threw in an extra million from his pocket or something. Like he bought a car for $1 million or something. I don't know. But
the street wanted $1 billion though. So, I mean, they missed by 60% there. Yeah, no, like, okay. So here's the inevitable question then. Do you sell your Tesla stock?
No, because it's a hold. It's a long-term hold. Look, if you believe in the story, you have to hold.
So
I'm just worried that this becomes something that gets prolonged, and eventually, because we have a climate the way that we have, this ultimately does not work the way people think it's going to work.
I think that's fair. I do disagree on the brand image though. I think that it's an issue, but it will be an issue that's resolved. I think there's innovation for that to be the problem.
It could be. I mean, it's let's see if they updated any of the earnings numbers for Tesla. So they're looking at, I actually think they revised these.
I mean, I didn't expect the numbers to be as bad as they were. I mean, they were disgusting numbers. And the stock,
they may actually not have revised these yet. It still says they're expecting 251 on EPS estimates. They didn't revise these yet, so it doesn't matter.
Is that's your police?
Yeah, dude, you always hear police when they, right?
I thought that was mine. Oh, yeah, of course.
And didn't they pull guidance?
Yes, they said they'll update guidance in Q2.
Yeah, that's not really great.
I mean, they kept it the same, but they didn't really underscore or reaffirm.
Yeah, I mean, look, I am still bullish on their future 10 years out. I can see a scenario where the shares fall to under 200. Absolutely. And especially, look, the robo-taxi, think about this a minute. For the ride-hailing thing to work, how much would you have to spend on your monthly rides to consider getting rid of your own vehicle?
Well, my Tesla payment is call it $500 a month, $500 a month. So it would have to be under that, right?
Okay. I would agree. It has to be under what you're paying right now.
But do I add insurance? Insurance is
You
another
have to,
200.
because if you're getting ride hailing, then you don't have insurance payment.
Okay, so 700 roundabout.
Okay, so it has to be under 700 for you. And in all realistic things, 700 is a little bit more aggressive than probably what the average vehicle and insurance payment is. But we'll leave it. Look, you go back to my example from the Tesla article. A 14-mile ride in Nassau County on a Saturday at 2:30 in the afternoon was $30. Somebody needs to get to and from work 5 days a week throughout the month. That's $1,200 right there. That
Yeah.
doesn't include going to the store. It doesn't include dropping off the kids. Doesn't include anything. So, yes, the whole ride-hailing platform is supposed to make the cost is less, but even if you cut that in half by 50%, it's still $600 a month you're spending on that, and that's without grocery store or anything.
That is in New York, though, right? Things will be a little different.
Okay, that's New York, but in New York, you're going less distance to your job most likely than other places in the country, so it's going to even out. Plus, you need on demand. If you have to wait 15 or 20 minutes, are you really going to spend 15, 20 minutes waiting for a ride when you need it? Not everybody is going to think to book the ride in advance. Like, there's going to be situations where you need to go do something and you're like 15, 20 minutes. Like, what the hell?
So you're saying a 2-mile drive costs you 30 in New York?
Yeah, in the article, Walt Whitman or Long Island University to Walt Whitman Mall cost $30 and it was a 14-mile ride.
And it was a Saturday, like 2 p.m.
Saturday, 2, 3 p.m.
So you're saying even if you take that down by half, which more than compensates the driver cut that people talk about.
Still $600 a month. And here's the thing. We know that those prices are not the prices during rush hour. We know those prices are not the prices during the day on a weekday when there's more cars on the road, because it takes more time to get from A to B. The unit of economics has to be low enough where they're able to really have a monthly rate of $200 or $300 a month in order for people to consider getting rid of their vehicles.
Now, this is what Kathy says. The way she gets the 2,500 a share is because she's thinking $1 a mile.
Can you put that? Who said that comment? There is no way that you got from Patchogue to JFK for $67.
It should be more than that.
And Patchogue's pretty far out there. So was it in the middle of the night? There's no way that was in the day.
He says he thinks he had a discount. Wait, what's Patchogue? I've never heard of Patchogue before.
It's out east. It's in the 60s on the LIE, I feel like, or the 50s.
It's in New York?
That's a long trek.
Okay, well, if they can get it to $1 a mile, that changes everything, right?
That changes everything. Absolutely, that changes everything. But $1 a mile, I mean,
that's what Tesla's going for, right, guys? I mean, that's what they've kept saying, that they're trying to go for $1 a mile here, or at least that's what Kathy's also, I think.
If they get to $1 a mile, how many miles can these vehicles get put on before they get taken out of service? 100,000, 150,000? I don't know.
Tanner says it will definitely get to $1 a mile.
Okay, so if it gets to $1 a mile,
that'd be pretty epic if they get to $1. That'd be, anyone would take that.
If it gets to $1 a mile, that would be great. But does anybody really think? I mean, I see Tanner thinks it's going to get to $1 a mile, but that's so unrealistic in the next 5 years.
This is a summary of what I think Kathy says. Operating cost is about 35 cents a mile. They think they would make 65 cents profit.
Let's put a disclaimer in there. A lot of things that ARC has come up with is like,
how do they get to $1 a mile? I'd
like to see a business plan how it gets to $1 a mile.
If they get to that means that $30 trip would have cost you $2 if they actually, even if it was $5, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I just don't see how you do it, because think about it. Let's say their cost of goods to produce the vehicles $20,000 or $25,000. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they can. I don't know.
I am on Kathy's. I just want to, as a thought project, kind of see what this is saying. From a modeling perspective, we previously estimated that Tesla's take rate would be 46% on average, higher than Uber's 20 to 30%. This year, we fine-tuned our analysis to include the assumption that initially Tesla will own and operate its vehicle network. For later years, we assume that third-party companies will own and maintain the vehicle fleet, earning 20 cents per mile, while the remainder of revenue per mile goes to Tesla, which would give us an 80% take rate. I'm curious how they get to $1 a mile, though. Even if they had a 40% take rate, that would not be bad. Farzal did a whole episode. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. I've never heard of $1 a mile. That's what the Tesla bulls are thinking. The Tesla bulls think it will get to $1 a mile.
$1 a mile would be incredible. But
now I get why everyone's gung-ho about FSD. Like, that's more exciting than Robotaxi if they can figure out $1 a mile.
But once again, one, they have to figure it out. Two, they have to be able to put enough vehicles on the road to make this happen.
The vehicles are there. They've got a fleet of almost 7 million vehicles. Like, no. Now, Grant, that's a good point. I don't think I want my Tesla randomly picking up people. So that's fair. I wouldn't want that. I personally would just like, no, I don't care whatever money it makes me. I want my own car, right? But how many of
not just that, but you'd have to see if your insurance policy would allow it. That's one.
Yep.
People aren't. I'm the only person talking about that I've heard. Nobody discusses insurance. Nobody knows if the current policy that you have, once the robo-taxi thing comes to fruition, is going to allow you to utilize it as a robo-taxi or not. And if it doesn't, you have to then find another policy. And if it does, is there going to be a stipulation that it's Tesla's responsibility at that point if it gets into an accident, or is it your responsibility? Because if it gets into an accident, it's your responsibility. I don't know that you would want to do it. Tesla would effectively have to become its own insurance company at that point.
The insurance thing is a complicated issue to navigate. Other people say Tesla will have their own insurance. They'll work around all the policies.
I don't know if it is. Look, they could front load it with a couple $1 billion. They have the war chest. They could write their own policies, charge a couple $100 a month, and maybe they could probably pull it off actually from the insurance side. But that's only if Tesla is going to self-insure everything for FSD, and you just buy the policy through them. And it was an additional policy on top of your current one. I could completely see that. Like, they could easily do it. It's just getting to a cost that makes FSD profitable and something that is a no-brainer that it would be crazy to do anything else. I mean, I don't know.
Kathy is saying they will sell in a bull case. Let's do a bear case. 2029, they'll sell 6 million cars.
Craziness. I looked at this the other day.
250 billion in EV revenue, 603 billion in the bear case in robotaxi revenue, essentially.
Which, once again, is double what the entire taxi market is supposed to be in 2030, or close to double.
Yeah, I need someone to explain this whole $1 a mile and where they get this number. And I'm sure there's some people out there that have an explanation for it. But I mean, I don't focus on this one too much because the bots is where I spend my time.
Same
at least,
here.
and same with you. But I like FSD. I use it every day. I can see the thesis there. I just don't know if $1 a mile is easily going to play out.
Yeah, look, at $1 a mile, you're still paying for on the example that I used, I mean, it's undercutting by 50%. It's still not going to be something crazy. You just do it on a mile basis. My example was 14 miles on the single trip. So it's 28 miles round trip. You got to do that 20 times. That's 560 miles a month. Dollar a mile puts you at 560.
Let's listen to one of the analysts real quick. This is from a year ago, but the title of this video I think is where she talks about robotaxis. Let's just see if there's any explanation here we can get from one of ARK's analysts.
So why buy the stock now?
Yeah, so actually, I think, when we're talking about robo-taxis, this is something that will happen, we believe, within the next 5 years. So in fact, our 5-year price target, we think that robo-taxis will contribute over 90% of the enterprise value of Tesla at that point. So I think, I'm looking forward to hearing more detail on the call. What we've been seeing from Tesla is, of course, incremental software updates. They have a latest version of FSD where it's very limited in its release currently, but they're adding the functionality to take your hands off the wheel. They said in the letter that they expect the take rate of the full self-driving software to increase based on the increased functionality that they see. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that rollout, because I think to ignore robo-taxis today is a huge mistake with this stock, because ultimately it's an AI play.
Okay.
All right, go back to the figures again. What was the cost per mile that they were saying they were going to get to?
That's what I'm not getting. I don't see where they get cost per mile here.
You had it somewhere.
No, I command F mile, and they have a take rate. Oh, they say, well, no, it's just 20% versus. Yeah, I think it goes down to $1 a mile, because if they're saying the third party companies will take 20 cents a mile.
So let's do the math. $1 a mile still does not make this optimal for anybody, because you said you're paying how much for your Tesla?
Basically $700 a month.
Okay. So what I would like you to do starting in May, figure out how many miles you drive in May. And you're a good example because you work from home.
Yeah.
So when I look at a 14-mile drive, a lot of people drive more than 14 miles each way. On my example, they're doing 560 miles, and that's before going to the grocery store or anything else. That's going to cost them $560 just to get back and forth from work at $1 a mile. So that's probably more like $650, $700.
Hold on. Tanner says Uber X is already around $250 a mile. It's
okay,
not crazy.
But once again, Tanner, even if they get to $1 a mile, that's not making people get rid of their cars. Amit pays more than most people for his payment. A lot of people pay $350 a month for their vehicle. Insurance is another $150 a month, puts you at $500, and then you're around $650 after gas. So at $1 a mile, if you're only doing, now think about this, a normal lease is 12,000 miles. Let's say some people go under, say 10,000 miles a year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're telling me $1 a mile, so you're going to spend $10,000 a year for your driving by ride hailing everything. Or if the Amit's payment a month was $750, at $750 a month, which is high, you're at $9,000. It is still cheaper for Amit to have his own vehicle.
Okay, let's see what Tanner has to say. Tanner, what's up?
What's up, guys? I don't think it's that crazy of a statement. Take myself for example. I think that
I'm not taking you anywhere. What are you talking about?
You took me out for dinner for steak, so thank you. By the way, it was a
Dude,
nice.
by the way, this guy had a rare steak last night, not medium rare, rare.
Yeah, it was delicious.
He's got issues, bro. He's got it. Anyway, go ahead.
Sounds good. All right, so Uber has already put in their latest earnings how much each one of their rides is per mile. So you guys are hunting in the wrong area. I'd go to Uber directly to find those numbers. It's not too.
No, Tanner, I'm agreeing with you at $1 a mile.
No, hold on. This 250, Tanner, that's revenue Uber gets per mile. That's what you're saying?
No, that's what it says it's costing the user. And in fact, they also put personal cars at about $1 a mile.
No, hold on. Why did Steve pay $30 for a 2-mile ride, but you're saying Uber X charges $250?
Yeah, so New York is by far the highest. I think it's about $4.50.
But then why is Steve paying $30? That's still a crazy.
I don't know. Surge pricing. There could be a whole lot of different things.
Okay, but in general, you're saying if I want to go drive somewhere a mile on Uber, it should cost me $250.
Yeah, I don't think it's per mile that way. I think, you kind of take all the average. So potentially a 10-mile long ride might be lower than 250 versus a single ride of 1 mile, but they average out at about 250. This is according to Uber. I can share my screen here in a second.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Okay, so then you're saying Tesla can...
Here, let me share my screen here, and then we'll move on once we look at... This was on their slide deck. So depending on if you go from Uber XL or some of their other services like Shuttle, which lower the cost per mile, obviously, because you're shuttling multiple people, it potentially opens up a larger total addressable market for them as they make things cheaper. So UberX right here places them at about $2.50 per mile, where UberX Share makes it even closer to $2.
Got it.
Right. And then Black and all those other things would be on this side of the mile variant. But yeah. Okay. So
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
just really quick, and then I'm going to hop off. But in terms of the dollar per mile, I don't think that it's necessarily just to replace every single vehicle. Okay. I think the thing that you guys are discounting and why it's so important and why they can charge a premium for this is Amit can't get anything done behind the wheel of his vehicle. Okay. So
that's not true. You can make all the phone calls you need to make and take business calls on the road.
Sure, but he can't edit a video on his laptop in the back seat.
Most people are not digital content creators.
It doesn't have to be, but they could. A lot of people have email.
I'm just saying.
And so I think another thing too is take myself. I barely drive. I own a car. I pay insurance every month. There's not a chance Uber today is not cheaper. Okay. But I don't Uber everywhere because I don't want to sit with another person in a car. But if I could erase that and have just me in a car.
Anyway, you don't have to sit with another person in Uber and get your own Uber.
What? Say that again?
You can get your own
That's
Uber.
a drive, though.
Yeah, there's a driver.
Okay. I thought you meant sharing. Okay. I get it. Okay.
So But you see my point. If I'm taking a few rides a month, it is by far cheaper to take an Uber
Sure.
than it is for me to pay
But
insurance.
that's
and
not
everything.
the person I'm talking about, though.
I know, but there's a lot of people who need rides occasionally, or people who currently take public transit that could upgrade to an Uber at cheaper costs that are currently taking public transit.
I don't disagree with you on that. I agree with you 100%. And that's not the demographic I'm talking about.
I know, but you're acting like that demographic is their entire use case.
Wait, so Tanner, you think we can get to $1 by just taking out the driver? That's your argument, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Why
full
are you
driving means they can work 24/7. Like this is
So Tanner, let me ask you this. Forget taking the driver out, forget autonomous for a minute. Do you think that this is going to expand the ride-hailing market, or do you think they are going to siphon everybody else's business?
in almost every single industry. You lower the total cost of ownership, the usage goes up. Yes, I think it'll expand the market.
It'll expand the market, and they'll take a bigger piece of the pie.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
that I won't necessarily debate on. I don't know.
But I'm not looking to debate on that. I'm just making a generalization that if it becomes cheap enough, more people should theoretically use it. So whatever the projections are for the market could get changed and be more in the future.
I'll say this. Full self-driving will take a larger percentage of the total ride-sharing market. It's not clear that Tesla's the winner there. There will be a lot of players, and I think that it'll be hard to differentiate between Tesla or Waymo or Zoox. I think what's really going to differentiate them is distribution. And honestly, the big winner there, I think, might actually be Uber.
All right, so roll with me on this real quick. Right now, the market size in 2025 for all ride hailing is $203 billion globally. It's projected currently to reach $322 billion. That includes Uber, Lyft, Grab, Yellow Cab, and everything else. This is not my numbers. This is an actual consulting company that put this together. Now, keeping that in mind, when I got my numbers on a Saturday, it was a 14-mile ride, and it came to $30 after a 30% discount. Okay, I'm going to share a different screen.
I mean, if there was the definition of anecdotal, I mean, that would be it, right?
You got Josh.
Oh, good. Oh,
So
man. Oh,
I would say
man.
that a normal car payment is $350 a month. I would say normal insurance is around $150 a month. Gas $150 a month. Put your total monthly payment at $650. Annual payment at $7,800. If you think about leases, most leases are 12,000 miles, but a lot of people go under, but they get the bigger one so they don't have to pay the additional cost on the miles. Very rare do people get 15,000 mile packages. So if you figure 10,000 miles, and let's drop it down to 9,000, even 9,000 miles at $1 per mile, it's still cheaper.
You'll drop it down to anything but lower than 7,800 miles, eh?
No, at 7,000, are you really going to rely on getting a ride hailing every time instead of spending extra $800 to have your own vehicle?
Why would I not? I don't get that.
But most people are not driving 7,000 miles a year.
Oh, but that's
Most
Tanner's
people are
point.
driving more than that.
Well,
That's why people
who
go
is
through
most,
cars
what do you mean by
quickly.
most? What do you mean by most people? Like
Most
everyone?
people that commute back and forth from work drive more than
Yeah, I would
10,000
definitely.
miles a year.
I would agree with that. Most people who are commuting every day do more than that.
Yes.
But and those people aren't going to be taking an Uber every single day.
But that's my entire point.
I'm not here to defend Kathy Wood. I was here to
that
defend your guys' crazy.
the numbers that are and I can get to $1 a mile. I have no problem with $1 a mile. I think it's going to be great, and it's also going to help them gain market share. But they're also going to destroy the overall revenue generated by the entire sector. So while they're gaining market share, there's actually going to be less money going around being spent on this because now rides are half expensive. So if the entire market, or if they were to get the entire market of 300 billion, but they're half as much.
But
really
I think Tanner's
$150 billion
point is they expand the market.
Yeah, and I don't think it's by 30%. I think you cut the cost by half, it more than doubles.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that the notion that has been put out there by some analysts that people are going to give up their vehicles, I don't think they're going to be able to get there for people.
I will say personally, I will definitely give up my vehicle. I've got no use for it as a
people who don't drive much definitely will. I can see that. I can get behind that. I think that if you're doing a couple thousand miles a year, you're not driving to and from work every day, you're going to the grocery store, you're going to dinner, that type of thing, it makes complete sense. I get it. The majority of people are not. So, especially if you have kids driving to sports, events, this and that. I mean,
you would throw them in an Uber.
Yeah, I don't know.
Everyone says it right now because it's not a technology that they. Everyone said this about freaking, like I'd put my kid on the internet, unsupervised, blah, blah, blah. Now every kid's got Snapchat and Instagram and everything like this. People act like their kids don't use technology. It's ridiculous. You would throw your kid in an Uber if you know that the statistics are safer than putting them with even a 5-star driver. It doesn't make any sense.
It's fair. It's a fair point.
Obviously, right now, it seems crazy because it literally barely exists as it is today. Give it 10 years, lots of miles, people feel safe. It's like whenever I was a financial advisor, I'd always talk to my older clients that are like 70 plus, and I'd be like, oh, you know what? We have to sign something, and it's COVID, so let's DocuSign it. They had no idea what this was. No, I prefer pen to paper. I forced them to use DocuSign once, then they ask for it next time. Oh, it's so easy, blah, blah, blah. Once you give them this luxury, it'll expand from there.
And I'm not saying it's not going to expand from there.
Waymo was awesome. We did it in San Francisco.
It was expensive though, Tanner. It was
What
expensive.
I'm saying,
that's because they don't need to fight on costs right now because everyone's doing it as a luxury. They are pricing to perfection. But then new entrants into the market, how are they going to be able to compete with the Teslas and the Waymos? They're going to compete on price.
even if Tesla becomes a winner take most, which they very well could, the projections that are out there that make this to be the holy grail of the business, the numbers that are being put out there just don't work, because in that thesis, a lot of people would need to give up their vehicles. And at $1 a mile, the people who actually drive every day, it doesn't become cheaper. For the people that are fair weather, that drive once a week or twice a week, it absolutely makes sense. For people who retire that are older, that only need to go here and there, it makes complete sense. But for the majority of people that are driving, and I'm just using my statistic on that one trip, and I'm also undercutting what a lot of people do. Can we ask Grok, what's the average mileage somebody drives a year?
Yeah, but Tanner, if you got to go, feel free to go because I don't want to keep you too
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
I think
I'm
Tanner
gonna
wants
leave
to
here.
hang out with us.
No, Tanner has a life. He has to go.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll continue to listen in, but I got to work. But yeah, thank you.
All right. Appreciate you, Tanner. Talk later.
I'm asking Grok right now. So
No, what's the question? Let me ask it in front of everybody. Let me ask.
okay. I can share my screen as I
Oh, yeah,
just
just do that. Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy.
So I asked Grok, how many miles do people drive a year? The average American driver covers approximately 16,596 to 14,489 miles per year. So the estimates that I'm using were very, very
Optimistic.
lucrative to
Yeah.
them to make the case. You know, this is well past what I am using. And then also, yes.
Hold on. What makes your numbers make sense is what, 9,000 miles? That's the number?
No, you got to be at 7,000 or 8,000 miles to even have a fair shot at somebody getting rid of their vehicle.
Okay.
It's somebody who drives every day. You go off this with the average American drives. Here's the problem. If that's what the average American drives, let's call it 14,000 to use an easy number. Okay. If the average American drives 14,000, then even some people who are not average are driving 8,000 or 9,000. The numbers of $1 a mile doesn't work for them to get rid of their vehicle. You have to be a part-time driver.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
The numbers just don't make sense. You can't tell me at $1 a mile, $14,000 a year makes sense when owning a vehicle is $7,800 a year.
Dude, I used to drive 20,000 miles a year for 3 years.
Right, because you
Back
were
when I
driving all over the place when you were younger.
When I was 20 to 23, essentially, I had a part-time job and it was 20,000. It was up and down New Jersey, 60 miles back and forth 5 times.
Yeah. And
So-
when you're a kid, you drive all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, $1 a mile could happen. Doesn't solve the problem. Doesn't get people to get rid of their vehicles. Not by a long shot.
And if it completely eliminates Uber and Lyft, I think you did this math before. How many hundreds of billions is that a year?
I'm sorry, I was reading a comment. I didn't
If
hear
you
you.
take away Uber and Lyft's revenues and you give it all to Tesla per year, that's like 300 billion or something.
No, that was the entire ride-hailing
Taxi
market.
Okay.
Entire market.
So
And,
if
and my point on that is, even if you give them that entire market, it's not going to be 300 billion because they're undercutting the market to get it. It's really going to be 100, 150 billion.
Gabe says Steve is using $700 a month, which is what Amit stated. Not everyone drives an EV. Plenty of fuel costs and repair costs that Steve's not taking into consideration.
No, I'm taking into consideration leasing a vehicle and not having to make repairs. That's the whole point of leasing a vehicle, is that you don't own it for 7 years and have to do anything.
What's your average cost per owning a vehicle that you did in your model? 400, 500?
I did 350 car payment, 150 insurance, 150 gas, 650 a month.
Is that unreasonable? I don't think that's
I don't think so. I mean, I lease, I don't pay for anything. That's the whole reason why I started leasing instead of owning my car. We own my wife's vehicle because she barely drives, but I lease mine because I drive all the time and I want to turn it over every 2.5 years. So I never have to make repairs.
The gas is definitely 150 to 170, and I'm using 283 on my average price. You still get to about 150.
Yeah. I think 150 is fair for gas. I think 350 for a lease payment is fair.
Yeah, and a lot of people have a high APR, or at least a 5 to 6% APR. So the idea that you have a lower than $300 car payment is not reality. Most people.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sandbag the numbers. I'm happy to change them, but I don't really see, even if you get a lease at $299 a month after taxes and stuff, it's going to be around $350. I mean, I could kick this up to $400 for the car payment, and the total monthly goes to $700, and the annual is $8,400. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about ownership of a vehicle. I'm talking about leasing a vehicle. Obviously, ownership, you have transmission that can go later on. You got electrical, you got new tires, you got brakes, you got all those other things you have to do.
Yeah. And the only way to get a cheap down payment, a cheap car payment if you own it, is you have to put some decent money down, or you have to get a high APR. It's one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was able in my lease to take 2 packages that pretty much ensures I never have to pay for anything during the duration of my lease.
Yeah, if you don't put, like, the reason my car payment is just under $500 is because I put $15,000 as a down payment. If I didn't do that, it would be way more expensive, or I would have a higher APR. So, like, I think that balances out also the fact that people saying, oh, well, you're using leasing. It was like, if you're not using leasing and you don't put down a big down payment, which most people don't, or like, I think the average person is not putting, a third of the car down in a down payment.
And don't forget,
$400.
When you lease and you turn over and you keep getting a car from the same place, they usually just want to keep you as part of the family. And that's all I'll say about that. But, I don't think that this is unreasonable using $700 a month for a monthly expense for a vehicle. And if that's correct, you're at $8,400 a year. Even if you bump it up to $800 a month, it's still $9,600 a year. At $1 a mile, the average driver is going to spend $14,500 getting ride hailing. Like, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense for people who barely drive. But regardless, I can't get to any models using realistic math of how Tesla is able to get to any of these numbers that people are throwing out there that are bulls on robotaxis.
Well, here's one thing we didn't think about. We're only thinking of United States.
We are only thinking of United States.
If he cleans up the brand and Europeans start getting in those cyber cabs, I mean,
sure.
I mean, that's a good point, right? Like, we got.
No, it's a good point, but it still does it change the unit of economics of ownership that much? I mean, I think that this is pretty standard. If you get a multinational brand car, it's not going to be that much different if you get in the U.S. than if you get it in England or Germany or somewhere like that.
No, I just think it expands the market globally. But you're right. The same sort of baseline effect could remain. Okay, so then why do you think people are paying the multiple they're paying for FSD? What do you think is the disconnect here?
I don't know.
Ken says, I can't wait to kick Steve in his shin when I see him.
Yeah, Ken can try, but he may not be able to eat anything for a couple of months if he does.
Dude, Steve is a mafia boss. Like, I legit think he runs the mafia. I tried watching Goodfellas over the weekend, by the way. I told you.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing that you started watching World War II stuff instead of Goodfellas.
Dude, I'm becoming an expert on.
Did you watch Band of Brothers?
No, but I learned about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I learned about the Treaty of Versailles. I remember these things from high school, but now they're coming back to me. Learned about North Korea. Dude, I'm so happy I don't live in North Korea.
We all should be.
Like, dude, people don't get North Korea is not a good place. It's like really bad. like the guy, when he's doing an entrance, if you are not crying, like they want you to physically force yourself to cry to show how much you care that he's walking in like if he's walking through a crowd or something. In America, you could have people saying, fuck Trump, putting up their middle fingers, putting up their signs, whatever. You have to be physically crying. And if you're not crying, you go to jail. There was one guy in their Congress that didn't stand up and clap when he entered in. He was like clapping, but he was sitting down. They killed him. They killed him because he didn't stand up and clap.
Anyway.
I'm happy we're not in North Korea. That's my point.
Yes, well, let's just leave it at that we live in the greatest country in the world.
Okay, so FSD you don't believe in. Autos you don't believe in. Why are you owning Tesla again? What's the...
Look, I believe that we can get somewhere with FSD. I just don't think it's going to be anything that's being projected. Autos is very scary at the moment because we need to prove that this quarter was an anomaly and not a trend that goes the wrong way. Optimus.
Hold on, we know autos is going to suck the rest of the year. So what? I mean, like we know that's like.
But does it suck next year also?
I mean, if rates
Only
come down,
time will tell.
if rates come down, that should be a natural catalyst.
Hopefully.
If he steps away kind of from politics, maybe there's a catalyst there.
You know, rates coming down is going to be a catalyst, but we're going to see if there is really brand damage or not. And look, I hope as an American company, there is no brand damage. Now, only time is going to tell to prove that. The problem is the valuation is still insane at 700 billion plus, and adding 1 million robots at $25,000 is 25 billion, and a 30% margin is 7.5 billion profit. That's nothing compared to the companies that are currently at the same market cap. So Tesla could grow its profitability by 7x and still generate less than what Google generated last year.
So the moral of the story is buy Nvidia.
I think Nvidia's got yes, for the next couple of years, I think Nvidia is going to do better. Look, I own both, but it's just very hard to get around Tesla's valuation right now when this year is almost getting written off. And if the bull case is 1 million robots by 2030, and that's only going to produce 7.5 billion in profit over the next 4.5 years, I mean, I don't know.
So let's transition a little bit to Nvidia. Then we'll talk about sort of general macro and J Powell and all that stuff. 102, it's up 3% after hours. This thing has been in the gutter all year, down about 30% for the year. Is this the easiest stock you've had to add to, or do you still feel some hesitation that you could be wrong on this thesis?
I mean, we've both been wrong on this so far.
No.
So,
You and Tanner have been wrong. I've just been following you and Tanner,
You've
so
just been
I'm not
coming
taking the blame on this one. You
you're
guys,
just coming along for the ride.
I told Tanner this weeks ago. I was like, "You got me into this." We had a debate for 2 hours. I was, you know what? Tanner's a smart guy. He's right. I buy this thing, and then boop, goes to zero. No, I know. Seriously, obviously, I've been wrong. I know you as well.
Maybe you're Eddie Mush.
Some movie character that
You don't know who Eddie Mush is, do you?
He's in some freaking movie. You're gonna make fun of me that I don't know what the movie.
You know, Ken in my phone. I'm not going to tell you what his exact thing is, but I have Eddie Mush next to his name. I don't know if you can play the clip or not about Eddie Mush, but
absolutely cannot play the clip. Dude, they
Eddie Mush is a legend.
No, the copyright is getting up there. Okay. But look, I've been wrong. I've been wrong on Nvidia all year as well. But okay, so why do you think you're not wrong on this thesis? Why do you think you're going to be right at the end of the day?
Because before tariffs and before China, Nvidia's growth projection was that they would generate, I think it was $206 billion in revenue this year. And based on their current margins, that would put them at over 100 billion net income.
Correct. Yes.
They were trading at like, I think the estimates were like, I don't know if they're updated or not right now, but they're saying it's $4.42 for this year, which puts it at a 22 PE.
So what's a reasonable PE? Give me a reasonable one. What's a reasonable PE on 442?
Well, right now their year-over-year growth in EPS is 48%. Think about that for a second.
Reasonable PE is what, 35? That's reasonable?
Well, Walmart and Costco are trading at 35 and 45, and they have like no growth.
That puts us at 155 then.
So in all seriousness, when you're looking at a company like Nvidia that's trading at 22 times this year's earnings, 17 times next year's earnings, and 15 times 2027 earnings, and their year-over-year EPS growth is 48%, 28%, and 15%. I thought everybody wanted to pay for growth. I thought growth above everything, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is a company that is going to continue to print money, that is going to continue to buy back shares. And you've never had a company this profitable with these type of growth rates trading at this low of a PE. I mean, you're getting into I don't want to say tobacco territory, but Philip Morris actually, I think, trades at a higher valuation.
No way. No way. Cigarettes.
I think Philip Morris trades at a higher valuation, and Philip Morris trades at a higher valuation. Philip Morris trades at 22.5 times this year's earnings.
Wow.
Yes, PM. Philip
PM.
Morris, 22.5 times this year's earnings.
Dude, it's up 35%. Wait, why is Philip Morris up 35%?
You guys all laughed at me when I said Altria.
Yeah, but Altria's not up 35%. I mean,
You're right. It's up more.
no way. Altria's
Type
up
in
more.
Mo. Type in Mo. See what happens.
Okay, it's up 12%. It's not 35%.
Over the past year, it's up 38%.
Yeah, but freaking Philip, this year it's up 35%. Like,
Philip Morris up 30. I didn't realize it was up 35%.
why are people
year-to-date.
smoking so much?
Uh,
Dude, you know I've never had a cigarette in my life.
don't start.
I want to try it one day. I just want to see what it feels like.
Philip Morris was very undervalued. I wrote about it a lot. Very undervalued. But I mean, a cigarette company is trading for more than Nvidia.
Does Philip Morris sell Zyn? Is that their main?
Yeah, yes, they own Zen.
This is this thing people stuff into their freaking gums.
Yeah, it's new age dip.
Dude, this thing is taking off in popularity.
Yeah, Zen's huge.
You don't have to smoke. You just put it in your gums and it gets you.
How about this? Nvidia is trading at less than Southern Company, which is a utility company.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's stupid.
Okay. Southern Company is trading at 21 times this year's earnings and 19.5 times next year and 18.47 times 2027. And Nvidia is trading at a lower multiple than Southern Company. I mean,
okay, so here's my question. I want to see what the chat says about this as well. Everyone, as Steve said, wants to pay up for growth. You've got the growthiest of the growthiest stocks you can imagine with Nvidia, trading at multiples that are obviously ridiculous compared to a Philip Morris, a Netflix, a Costco, a Southern Utility, or Southern Company, etc. What is the hesitation? Why are people not paying up for growth when it comes to Nvidia? There's got to be a reason, right?
And it's not even just paying up for revenue growth. You're paying up for profits.
Yeah, it's net income. Yeah. I'm curious what people are obviously we've been theorizing about this for the past couple months, but like, do people not believe in the chip thesis? They don't believe in robotics. They don't believe in.
Yeah, the only thing is people think that there's not going to be as big of a spend on CapEx that there currently is.
By the way, I think you saw the headlines yesterday about Wells Fargo saying AWS is bringing back their spend. An Amazon executive went on LinkedIn and he said that's bullshit. He said we have no plans to.
It's the same thing that Alphabet came out with 2 weeks ago and reaffirmed $75 billion in CapEx.
And given Trump just walked back the tariffs, now they have a better incentive to not.
These companies are not scaling back CapEx on data centers. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at TSM.
Dude, so this has to be the easiest buy in the market then, right?
I think it's the easiest buy right now. It's the only thing I've really been adding to.
But what if, and I'm pulling this up for a conversation's purpose because it's a good conversation starter. If I can find this, I sent it to you. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You get annoyed every time I show you this, but.
What, are you going to send me some creek or something?
Creek? What?
I don't know. You talk about freaking this creek by some person named Dawson or something. I don't freaking know.
That's a movie. That's a show. Sorry. No, I was going to show you this. Okay, so what if this is the reason no one wants to invest in Nvidia?
Oh, you did show me this the other time, and it is. You can't say it's ridiculous, but Nvidia is. Can you ask Grok what Cisco's PE was in 2000?
Yeah,
because that's when this topped out. What was Cisco's PE in 2000? Because I do not know what it was off the top of my head. But I promise you, it's nowhere near what Nvidia's is right now, and that's the difference. No, Cisco had earnings back then. Cisco actually was doing over $1 billion in net income back then, I believe.
It was 220 at the highest.
Yeah, 220 times earnings. So that's why this is nowhere near the same story.
But Nvidia's trading at 20 times. This is stupid. Even with the China revenue gone, this is still stupid.
Yeah. And the China revenue, $5.5 billion. So sorry, we only do 95 billion instead of 102 billion this year in net income. Like, it's not going to make a huge difference.
Especially if Elon's ready to give them 20 billion to build out Colossus too. I mean, there's other ways to compensate for that demand.
Yes.
Like, because people are mentioning in the chat, how do you currently feel about our good friend?
It is
Palantir?
So overvalued.
But it hasn't, Steve. You've been calling for it to come down. It hasn't done what you've wanted it to do.
It is one of the best companies in the world.
I think there's something special about. I mean, there's always been something
magical.
special. But it fell to 65 when the market fell. Independent of the market, we got earnings coming up, but it's held up.
Palantir is one of the best companies in the world. It makes them feel good. You know, it gives us all this great content to talk about.
Freaking NATO just bought their software and tweeted about it today.
NATO just bought its software. It's going to build the Iron Dome with Anduril. It's exactly why I became a shareholder. But at some point, it's a little hard to give them a $250 billion market cap when every company around that area is doing like 20 times the profits.
Unless you drink the Kool-Aid.
Unless you drink the Kool-Aid.
And the Kool-Aid's pretty damn cool. Let me say that.
I would hope Kool-Aid is cool considering it has cool in its name.
No, but seriously, like, can you explain how it's kept this multiple for the past 5 months?
Yeah, people aren't selling.
No, but I don't think this is just retail diamond handing. That's part of it. But
part of it.
I think this is the big boys that are keeping it afloat. There's no way.
I mean, look, everything corrects. Palantir went from 125 to 60 something, and then it shot back up to 90 something. It's almost going to get back to 100. I mean, no, in all seriousness, this could go to 150. It could, but it may not stay there.
Well, look, the 125 thing is stupid. I don't pay attention to that. That was ridiculous. And it lasted for like 3 days. But as Tyler says, if we're about to have an Nvidia quarter, 40% growth, we got to get to 40. If we get to 40% growth,
it's not just about getting to 40. It's about if they can sustain 40.
Yeah, obviously that's going to be the tough.
If they can sustain 40, it becomes a very interesting thing. And I may revisit and say it's not nearly as overvalued as I thought it was. The TAM is still huge.
No, and I actually disagree with this. I do not think price drives my sentiment. Since 45, I have been in agreement with Steve. There's thousands of videos at this point on YouTube every day on the market open, market close saying, hey guys, I'm not buying Palantir. I think it's expensive. My mindset has not changed at 93. I am rather saying how impressed I am that the stock has been able to hold up the multiple because everyone said by now it would come back to 30 or 40 or at minimum 50. It hasn't even got there. Not once. The closest we got.
I'm in the 50 to 60 camp.
Yeah, well, you're a bit more reasonable. There's a lot of people saying it needs to go back to 30 or 40, right? Like it
doesn't need to do anything. I mean, I'm just more in the 50 to 60 camp because I think that's a more fair valuation for the growth it has. But it could keep going up. It's just when you look at the companies that it is currently trading near, it's hard for me to give it the same market cap as Salesforce.
It's hard for me to say it should be worth 250 billion. It's hard for Matt to say that. It's hard for a lot of people to be like, yeah, even Arnie, right? 250 billion, sure. But if you believe there's going to be extensive, just like Tesla, you believe this growth story is going to happen. At least Palantir has the growth. Tesla doesn't have the growth. If you believe in that growth story, and I know you don't necessarily believe in it because still the multiples are crazy, but that's why people buy it.
I just want to say one thing about the Palantir valuation. And people are not going to like what I'm about to say, but it needs to be said. Amit, let me ask you a question. How much free cash flow did Palantir generate last year?
I think 1.2 billion, roundabout.
You're correct. How much net income did they generate?
Net income, I think 450 million.
I think you're correct. It's somewhere in that 400 level.
Yeah.
Okay. How much revenue did they do?
2.8.
2.8?
Yeah.
2.8. Okay. My buddy Salesforce. Okay.
Dude, you do this every time, and no one cares about Mark Benioff and his stupid agent force. Like, no one cares.
Nobody cares except businesses that use it.
Well, a lot of businesses are using Palantir. A
lot more businesses are using Salesforce.
Dude, Salesforce is down 27% year to date.
Yeah, the market cap it's a good time to buy. The market cap is right around Palantir's.
Wait, what's their market cap? Their market cap is 233. Hold on, what's Palantir's?
It could be Palantir, maybe more right now.
Palantir's 220. This is
share my screen,
dude.
Please share my screen.
It's Palantir, dude. It's freaking Palantir.
Year over year basis, Salesforce grew its revenue year over year by $3 billion. They grew their revenue by more revenue than Palantir generates. Their net income for the year was $6.2 billion. They grew their net income by $2.1 billion, almost the amount of revenue that Palantir generated. Yet the market caps are the same. Something doesn't make sense there. Either Salesforce is the greatest buy right now and is super undervalued, or Palantir is grossly overvalued. But they both should not be in the 220 to 240 billion range when the income statements are this vastly different.
Okay, so I don't think anyone who's rational looks at those numbers and fundamentally disagrees. However, it's been about 5 months now.
I get it.
Why do you think, and don't give me retail, why do you actually think Palantir is not selling off to something more quote unquote reasonable?
I think a lot of people feel that they missed Palantir. And unfortunately, the way the markets work are not in a business sense. They're on a opportunity sense. And yeah, that is crazy, but how's their ontology? That's good. But at the same time,
this is why it's Palantir, bro. No, going to your point, like a lot of people feel they missed it, and yeah,
a lot of people feel that Palantir can go from 3 billion to 10 billion in the next couple of years, and they're going to be in it for all that growth. The problem is when you look at where companies actually trade, and it's the same problem I have with Tesla, it doesn't make any sense because they're already getting that multiple that they have to grow so much into. It's just, why is Cisco trade where it is? Cisco does over $10 billion a year in profit.
Look, again, every time we talk about the numbers, I get it. But when Palantir gets a NATO contract, when Karp is Karp and he's speaking and he's getting people to believe, like,
trust me, I get it.
Because here's the thing. Just like everyone said Tesla needs to go below 200 right now, if Palantir did somehow get to 40, 45, I think people who even like hate Palantir, they would rush in because even they have seen so much content on the company where they know, it's worth taking a bet right here. And I think because there's all that demand ready, it'll get deployed at 70, at 65, at 50, at 50, unless we have a recession, which we were close to on April 8th.
Palantir is a very sticky business. I mean, you don't see their customer growth going down into the negative. They're growing quarter over quarter. And that is a big thing. They're very sticky. Same thing with Salesforce. People are not getting rid of Salesforce. Businesses are not getting rid of Salesforce. It's a very sticky environment. So Palantir has a lot of potential. Problem is, it shouldn't be a $200+ billion market cap right now. And so much of it's already priced in. So what are you telling me? Tell me that Palantir is going to go from generating 480 million in net income to 2 billion in net income and be an $800 billion company? Like, is that what we're saying?
No, but I think what my point has been for the past couple of months with you is that it doesn't have to keep going up, but it doesn't have to go back down.
And
a lot of people are sitting on life-changing amounts of wealth. They might just keep sitting on it.
I would be okay,
right?
If Palantir just kind of cruises between 75 and 100 for the next 3 or 4 years while it grows into it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Quite frankly, it would be obviously boring and we want the stock to go up and stuff, but so many people bought in at $10 to $20 that I think they would also be okay with saying, all right, I'm up 7, 8x, whatever. I don't want to sell it, but as long as it doesn't evaporate in front of me, then I'm happy to keep holding. And then by year 4, year 5, when we keep getting the growth to justify the multiples, then maybe we can expand. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy at all, which means 75 to 100 for the next couple of years. Now, granted, given the fact that they could hyper grow and multiples and bull markets, yada, yada, it might not stay in that range.
It may not, but it also doesn't have to retrace.
Yes.
It can certainly go sideways. And I do have another theory. I think a lot of people, you, me, other people, waiting to see if we get no capital gains in the next tax package.
Dude, there is no way the United States federal government, we bring in, I was looking at the numbers yesterday. These aren't exact because they don't break it up by segment, but it's about $200 billion a year in capital gains tax.
I know.
There is no way in hell, in my opinion, the government says, yeah, we're just not going to collect that $200 billion.
How about on long term? Keep short term.
No, but Steve, you got to think about it. When CARP sells $400 million worth of stock,
and it doesn't go down, and nobody cares about all the insider sales. I know.
No. I'm not even. I'm saying 50% of that is going to the feds.
I get
and that's
that.
the same for Jensen and Elon. Like, that's how they collect. They don't get their money from you and I selling stock. They get it from CARP and Elon, selling a couple billion of stock.
I get it.
They're not going to take that away.
I get it.
Like, that's how they collect their money.
I'm just saying that, maybe they do no long-term capital gains and only short-term. Who knows?
I would love it. I would love it if they did.
Who knows? But if they did that, I think he, Mr. Palantir would have a problem.
Well, that would encourage a lot of people to sell, is your point.
Yes. Look, I think Palantir can keep going up, unfortunately. I don't want it.
Unfortunately, it's not just because you have covered calls does not mean it's unfortunate.
No, because I'll figure out a way out of it. I'm not, that's not why. I think it's bad for the market. I think it's bad that.
No, what's bad for the market is Fartcoin.
100%. I agree.
But I don't know if I would put Palantir in the same. Is it expensive? Yes, but is it bad for the market?
Having a valuation that high, it's not good for perception.
Well, okay, so I will agree with you with the caveat that if some select companies have that valuation, it's okay. If the entire market has a crazy multiple, that's bad.
Look,
right?
If Palantir does 40% revenue growth and maintains it and actually increases a little bit to 42, 43 throughout the year, there's not a lot you can say about the valuation because they could continue to string that along, and this is going to grow more than what anybody thinks. I'm not saying they can't justify it in the next couple of quarters, but it's got to be a trend that continues.
Yeah, my point is just there are certain unicorns in the market, a Tesla, Palantir.
There's been one of them.
Get the premium. It would be unhealthy if GameStop was trading at $100 billion. Like, that's when it's like, okay, we got an issue. But also, the one thing we didn't talk about, NATO opens up, in my opinion, European growth.
Oh, yeah, a lot of government growth overseas.
And hopefully commercial as well in Germany, France, etc. It'll take time.
Yeah.
It'll take time.
Yeah. Does commercial really matter overseas? Think about it. Go bring up VEA. What are the biggest companies in Europe?
EA?
Victor Edward Apple.
What is this? Victor
VEA.
Edward?
It's a international index fund that I have.
Oh, so it's not a company. It's okay. Gotcha.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's Europe. That's what. Okay, I use a different one. Okay, gotcha.
Now, I don't have a lot of exposure to it, but I have a little bit of it just as a little bit of a hedge. Hasn't been great. SAP is the biggest company.
Yeah. Had a good earnings today.
Yeah, but once again, the biggest company in this fund is SAP that has a 300 billion market cap. You look at the U.S. markets where you're talking 10 times bigger companies.
That's my point. Disruption is Europe is prime for disruption.
Well, we need Amazon to get on Palantir is what we need.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like, well, they technically work with them, but it's not,
Yeah, but if they started using Foundry like full blown or AIP.
Look, my point is just if European commercial and European government opens up, because that's a sector of, like, my thesis for the past couple of weeks has been Palantir can't keep selling the US commercial story. It's a great story. It got the stock from 16 to 90, but they need a new story. And I think Karp and the team knows, like, what's the next story? I think the next story is Europe. And if they can make some inroads in the next couple of quarters showing us Europe's becoming a behemoth and then expand to Asia, et cetera, I mean, that could be your growth story right there.
It could be
Along with
great.
the fact that they might put out a new product this year. I mean, we haven't really heard of new ideas.
I mean, you can't think that AIP is going to be the last product they roll out.
Not at all. I mean, Warp Speed they put out at the end of last year. I'm sure we'll get updates on that. But
yeah, and you have a military that's going to get upgraded. Like, there's a lot of growth on the horizon for Palantir. I'm not saying there isn't.
The freaking ECB president today pledged that NATO is going to start spending a shit ton of money on defense. Like, is that all going to Rheinmetall, or is some of that going to go to the software companies that?
You got to think some of it's going to the software companies. Look, I am a fan of Palantir. I'll always be a shareholder to some degree, but that doesn't mean that I have to agree with the valuation right now.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
One final thing, and then we'll talk about Powell, and then we'll get out of here. Chad was tweeting about this as well. They are experimenting with AI FDEs. For those that don't know what an FDE is, forward deployed engineer. This is kind of like a unique mix between a consultant engineer for Palantir. He said verbatim, AI FDEs might be the next boot camp moment a couple of days ago. And I believe him, because if you don't have to send someone out to BP, if you can automate that process where the customer engages with the FDE via AI, because the agents are just getting that good, I mean, we're talking about a whole nother level of productivity. So
I think productivity is going to expand so much in the next 2 years. I don't think many people are ready for what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so let's end it off right here. Thank you, everybody, for joining again on the late night stream. I'll put Steve's Twitter right here. If you're not following Steve on Twitter or Seeking Alpha, please make sure to follow him. Steve, first question for you before we get into super macro. What are you currently buying right now?
Just Nvidia. That's the only thing I've been buying right now. And the S&P. But that's automatic.
Cool. Nvidia and the S&P.
The dividend series I write for Seeking Alpha, I don't really count that because that's very small buys.
Futures, by the way, everything's up pretty much 1.5% across the board. So futures are looking very good. Okay, so Trump after hours said some well, I should just play the video because you haven't seen the clip yet. I
watched it with you.
Oh, okay. Well, other people haven't seen it, but let me pull up these two clips. This is first on firing J Powell. This is what Trump had to say that got the market happy.
Whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier. But no, I have no intention to fire him.
Okay, so that was a big deal. Everyone was afraid of him potentially firing J Powell, which would not be the best. And then here's what he had to say about China tariffs.
145% is very high, and it won't be that high. Not going to be that high. It got up to there. We were talking about fentanyl, where various elements built it up to 145. No, it won't be anywhere near that high. It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero. It used to be zero. We were just destroyed. China was taking us for a ride, and just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're going to be very good to China. I have a great relationship with President Xi, but they would make billions and billions and billions of dollars a year, and they would build their military out of the United States and what they made. So that won't happen, but they're going to do very well. And I think they're going to be happy. And I think we're going to live together very happily and ideally work together. So
Totally different tone from the past couple of weeks of being more aggressive with China. He is obviously taking down the escalation that was pretty intense even just yesterday. What's your reaction to that?
Well, let's start here. I'm happy that he is publicly saying that he is not going to fire Jerome Powell. To my understanding, the president can only fire the Fed chair for cause, not at will. Now, my interpretation, I'm not a lawyer, it could be incorrect. That's my interpretation of it. I don't think that Powell has done anything that would constitute cause. I also think that courts would need to review it. I also don't think it's a good look. It sets a very slippery precedent going forward where if a future president or even the same president doesn't like the way that the Fed chair is operating, it sets a standard for being able to remove them. I think that is just not a good thing for investor sentiment. I don't think market confidence. I don't think just the global macroeconomic environment it would be good for. I think cooler heads are going to prevail in this. And I'm glad that he's walking some things back and taking a little bit of a different tone. And I said from the beginning, I really think that he is saying things in a certain way to cause disruption and force people to the table. Because if he came out with a couple of percent, may not have had the reaction from some countries, and some countries may have just went with it. You know, his ultimate thing is he wants to get deals done. He's got to make a splash so people come meet with him, and I think that's what happened. And I think we're going to be in a much different place in the next month or two.
Do you think we actually got anything from him threatening 145%? Because it seems like he folded just now.
We're not going to know until we see what the actual deals are. What we got right now is we got a negotiation.
Wait, but no, we got a meeting. I feel like without the 145%, he could have called them and said, "Hey, let's have a meeting."
Well,
So what exactly?
Either way, we'll never know. What we have right now is the start of a negotiation. Where that goes is a different story.
I get it, but from an analytical perspective, and I'm not saying we didn't get anything, but if all he wanted was a meeting, we could have had a meeting a long time ago.
Probably could have got a meeting.
I think the president of the United States could have gotten a meeting.
I would like to think the president of the United States could have gotten a meeting.
So maybe this 145% was to show that he's super aggressive and he's willing to play hard. But if you walk it all back, and it's going to end up being 20%, which is what the market kind of thought it would be in March. Did we just get cheaper stock prices? We got the dip. That's what we got from this.
But we definitely got cheaper stock prices.
No, but seriously, I'm just trying to think.
You got a bear market for a couple of days at least, and you know my stance on this. I want fair trade, and maybe this pushes the door. I'm okay with charging countries the same exact thing they charge us. They want to charge us 5%, we charge them 5%. I think it's important that American companies have the same ability to compete here and overseas when an overseas company has the same ability to compete in their native country and here in the US markets. So I don't think reciprocal tariffs, as long as they are true one-to-one, is a bad thing. I think it's very fair. So if that's the outcome that we get from that, I think it's very good for American companies.
Well, I agree. The outcome, I don't have any disagreement with. The process of how we get there. Just wondering, what was the point of it?
I would have liked to seen a different method of getting there, less public, less disruption. In his mind, he may have thought that's the only way to get there.
Do you think there's a world where him threatening China made Vietnam really scared, and that's why Vietnam is going to give us a better deal because they saw him being mean to China? Do you think there's any logic there?
Maybe.
I'm hoping that when this is all said and done, there's going to be more than just a fair trade deal, because we went through a lot of shit to get here, and there's got to be something deeper for him to go through all of this to then just walk it back a month before.
He's not going to walk everything back to where it was. He's coming out of this with something. Now, what that something is, we're not going to know until it's there. But this also could be to try to force the Fed's hand to a degree he may be trying to accomplish several things at once. And my opinion is
No,
the
but
Fed
that is insanity. That he thought threatening one of the most inflationary policies you could imagine, 145% tariffs on China, where we get all our shit from.
Why is it so crazy to think that imposing tariffs and knowing that that would increase prices? Why is it crazy to think that that would force the Fed's hand to cut? Because then price stability goes up. They don't have a choice.
No, that could be because they fundamentally misread J Powell. For you to go to that logical conclusion in the syllogism that tariffs will decrease growth.
Misreading Jay Powell and trying to accomplish that through this means are two different things. They definitely made a tactical mistake with Jay Powell's outcome, but they could have been thinking that this would help get the Fed to start cutting.
No, but I'm saying that's ridiculous because the Fed would not cut rates into an inflationary policy because this type of a Fed, given they missed inflation in 2021, has no desire to see inflation get restoked.
But at the same time, inflation's no longer the problem. Right now, unemployment's the problem. Right now, you have 2.4% CPI. And oil, where's oil today? It was at 64 the other day. It bounced off the lows. But oil is significantly lower, and that's going to be rolling through the economy over the next couple of weeks.
No, but obviously inflation is not the problem. The problem is that when you put on 24% tariffs against the world, Jay Powell starts feeling like inflation's the problem again.
But at the same time, you have a dual mandate. What is more important? Inflation being at 2.4%? Maybe it trickles up to 2.5 or 2.6. Maybe it trickles lower to 2.223. Or unemployment no longer being at the lows. Because unemployment is no longer at the lows and it's already gone from 3.4% to 4.2% in the past 2 years. It's been trending higher. You have a very serious problem. And when rates are higher, companies are less likely to borrow capital to expand. And with all the debt terming, corporate debt terms in 5 and 10-year cycles, what was 5 years ago? The pandemic. Companies were borrowing at next to no rates. You can't refi at these rates.
So you're right about all that. But the problem is if they thought that they could introduce the most unprecedented, potentially inflationary tariffs ever in a world in which inflation was just at 3% a couple months ago and it finally came back down, and Jay Powell would be like, yep, that's great. We're going to cut because we're afraid about unemployment. And even though we have these inflationary tariffs, they just misread if Kevin Warsh was the Fed chair, maybe, but not with Jay Powell. With Jay Powell.
I do not like the way that he went about it by any means. And I think there was a better way to go about it. I would have loved to see a different process happen. I think the communication's been bad. I also think the Fed is wrong. I think the Fed should have been cutting already. They should have started in March, and I think they should be cutting. The fact that oil is down and the fact that unemployment is up, oil coming down is going to make all input costs go down. And it's more important that we have strong labor market than worrying about a decimal point here and a decimal point there for CPI readings.
Why do you think the May probabilities went from 9 to 5 after hours?
They changed so quickly. This isn't that much different than what it was yesterday. They basically took a rate cut off the table for May, but look at June.
But Trump saying he's getting rid of the tariffs should put this higher, not lower.
They're not cutting.
June is down too. June is from 65 to 58.
I know.
Like, why are these going down? I don't get it.
But go to December now. You're getting 75 to 100 bips, 64%, 65%. So you're getting at least 3 to 4 rate cuts this year is the most likely scenarios.
Wait, is the reason it went down because now that tariffs aren't that bad, we're going to have growth? And if we have growth, we have... Dude, this is insanity. This is actually crazy.
You're going to stimulate the economy when you cut. So I think they want to see what actually happens with tariffs and with some of these deals and assess Look, there's a world where they don't cut till July or September.
I don't think we can afford that, dude.
They can cut. Think about this. If they wait till September, they can still do 4 cuts.
That's what they did last year. They did September and 50 bips in September. You're right.
They
I
don't
still
have
think
to cut right now, but they need to cut because they're not. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I haven't heard him, and I listen to every speech that he gives. I have not heard him talk about corporate debt. I've not heard him talk about businesses having a refi, REITs having a refi. I've not heard him talk about the impact that would have on jobs. To me, that's much more important right now, is the impact on jobs, because the last thing you want is unemployment going up, because that's going to hurt GDP. It's going to hurt Americans. And we have more of a obligation to make sure there's a robust job market than worrying about 2.4, 2.6, or 2.2% on CPI. It may
I
be
agree.
a dual mandate, but there are things that are more important.
I think they should be cutting as well. I can't blame Jay Powell for being afraid of the tariffs.
I mean, the Fed's been, it's hard to say they've been wrong. It's even hard to say that they've been late because we got the best possible scenario with a no landing. The problem is, can we just continue a no landing? Like, we didn't have a hard, we just had no landing. Everything just kind of worked. Now, could they have done a better job? I think no matter what it is, everybody can do a better job in anything they do. But did they do a good job or not? I think they, at the end of the day, history books will show that they did a good job. You know, it's all people's opinions on when they should have cut, but the outcome was the desired outcome.
Well, here's the thing. If we get rate cuts and growth is somewhat stable, we don't get a recession, we've got to be in a really strong next couple years if we avoid the recession and we get rate cuts, because growth stocks will get a premium. It'll be easier to buy cars, finance houses. I mean, a lot of good things will happen if we get those cuts and we avoid a recession.
The big thing is avoiding a recession. That's not good for anybody.
Do you think we're in a recession right now?
I think there's an argument to be made that we're in a recession right now.
I think so too.
I think there's an argument to be made that we're in a recession or we're at the start of a recession.
Job growth is not recessionary, but it is a lagging indicator. So, I mean, the Richmond Manufacturing Index came in at -13 today.
Look,
The market wanted -6.
When do we get GDP growth?
I think in like 2 weeks.
So Q1 is going to be negative. I think we all are expecting that.
Yeah.
You know, we could have negative in Q2 and then Q3 and Q4 be great. And we would be out of, and then theoretically we would be out of a recession in July.
So the argument for a recession too is that if we're in negative GDP growth, you can start the beginnings of a recession.
Basically. Dude, the private sector is not hiring. Companies are still doing RIFs. I
told you I was talking to a friend yesterday who's doing layoffs now.
Yeah. I know. Look, it is it's a scary job place out there, and I think a very big problem is people are underestimating AI and what AI is going to mean.
Let's end it off on this conversation, because Steve's been freaking out about this for the past couple weeks, and he's like, he has a real thesis here.
Probably longer than a couple weeks.
Yeah, but over the past couple of weeks, you've started to really realize how bad it is, or how potentially bad it is. So let's see what you guys think. Okay, so here's the question. Will AI take away jobs from the world? Or will it increase the amount of jobs? Dude, look how serious he is. He's been really thinking about this. He's like,
well, I'm looking at the chat. I want to see what everybody says.
Steve is not happy about the prospects of AI. Let's just say that. If Tanner was here, Tanner would be debating with you, because Tanner thinks AI is going to make a lot of jobs, but
I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
Okay. By the way, Lakers 34-17. They're up right now. They need this game. If the Lakers lose this game, it's not going to be good. But they're up right now. Okay, yeah. So does AI take away jobs or no?
So right now it looks like the chat's a little split.
I'll just do a poll. In the chat.
Yeah, do a poll because I'm trying to follow the comments. It looks like it's a little split right now.
Okay, well, AI add jobs or take them away?
So I keep changing my thesis on what it's actually going to be. But I do think in the beginning it's going to make us more productive. I think it already has made a lot of people more productive. And I think we're only scratching the surface at the moment. At the same time, I think that this is going to morph into something that becomes a category disruptor and really takes jobs away. And it's going to be multi-pronged. You know, we had a whole segment about FSD and autonomous driving. Think about the amount of people that are employed for transportation, from trains, buses, yellow cab, Uber, trucking industry. At some point, all that's going to be automated. Whether that's 5 years, whether that's 10 years, at some point, automation is coming for that. Okay? So that's the first leg. Or in no particular order. The next leg, Zuckerberg 2 quarters ago, I believe, said that all of their mid-level engineers would likely be replaced by AI by the end of this year. Alphabet's ex-CEO came out the other day. I sent you the thing saying that his prediction is by the end of this year, most to all coders are going to be replaced. Now, there was such a big movement to learn to code, and so many people that got computer science degrees, and so many people that learned Python and all these other things. I swear to God, your chat, this is why I can't look at your chat, because it's hilarious. So
real quick, before you continue, let's just give a shout out. Savage, thank you for the $20. Steve, you are a breath of fresh air, and I love you. I wish you had your own YouTube channel to explain Macro Weekly, the Common Sense channel.
I'll take it under consideration.
Steve wants to start a YouTube channel. He's just really busy, but eventually he'll start one.
So when I look at what is happening and all the stuff that people can do, I don't know if you watch Iced Coffee Hour. I happened to catch their last episode only because Chris Camilla was on it. So I wanted to watch it. I normally don't watch it, but whoever the other guy is on it with Graham was talking about how he used Grok to code some Jeopardy game in like 2 minutes for him and his friends to play.
Yeah.
And when you think about somebody that's got no experience that can do that, and the brightest minds telling you that AI is going to replace their engineers and coders for computer programming within the next year or so, that's a lot of jobs that are going to get displaced. And I'm not saying that new industries won't be spawned. And I'm not saying that people aren't going to figure out new ways to generate capital from this. But job market is going to drastically change. And when you compound computer coding being done by AI, and now you only need some managers and higher level engineers to make sure that everything's being sequenced together and to put everything together the way that the company envisions it, it's going to mean less employees, less headcount. The autonomous driving market is going to do a lot to disrupt jobs. And then when you start thinking about Optimus and robotics, that's going to also disrupt jobs to the point where, and I'm not saying the next year or two, but I am saying the next 5 or 10 years, I think it will be normalized to see an Optimus type robot cutting the grass, an Optimus type robot doing household chores, working in a warehouse, moving packages, and then doing deliveries where you have 2 Optimus robots in a Mack truck and they're the ones unloading it. there's a lot of things from an insurance aspect that make sense from it because it will make workman's comp claims go down. It will make insurance costs go down, take liability off the table. There's a lot of benefits from a business side where you can have robots working more hours, no union, unless robots unionize. But there's a lot of things from a business aspect that would make sense for it. And it's going to be very hard to figure out what we do with this massive shift in such a short period of time. And then eventually, do robotics get the dexterity to do the surgeries? And we know that intuitive surgical, that robotic apparatus that they use is used for laparoscopic procedures.
Yep.
What happens when AI is now controlling it instead of a human? At some point, you got to think that that's going to happen.
You're saying healthcare has a chance to be automated, obviously manufacturing automated, engineers easily, in my opinion, with AI coding get automated.
How about accounting? Think about this. You have, let's just say, I'm not talking about somebody that just has a W-2 and can put that into TurboTax. Somebody that's got a more complicated tax return. They got a couple of 1099s. They got a couple of K1s. They got their W-2. Maybe they have an LLC or something. Maybe they have a rental property. If AI gets that good, and we all think it's going to, then why wouldn't it be able to take the entire tax code and then you upload every document into it and it just tells you what you owe? I mean, you can't tell me that is not at least a halfway decent shot at happening.
I think it's like a 99% chance. Like, it's already so damn good. It messes up with numbers here and there, but it's going to get better.
And how about this? You're already able to talk to Grok or ChatGPT or Gemini and have it tell you a story. You're already able to have it create pictures for you. So at what point do you even need actors anymore? And at what point can you just tell it, I want a TV show in 20-minute episodes to resemble Sons of Anarchy or Entourage or Billions or whatever you remember that you like? You can just have it create a new adventure. Or I didn't like the way that this show ended. Can you remake me an episode of that with a different ending? At what point does AGI become real?
So that segues to another conversation we were having, and this super chat will get us there as well. Savage, again, thank you for the $10 super chat. I just created a non-farm payroll indicator with AI, and I still type with only my index fingers, which is insane. He says strippers are not safe. Going to your argument about AGI and content, I mean, what's one of the biggest industries out there? Adult entertainment.
Who's to say that you're not going to be able to distinguish if a video for a TV show is actually made through AI or real actors?
And when you can customize everything you want to see.
Exactly. What's the need? Think about what that does for production value for Netflix. They no longer have to employ actors. They no longer need production studios. They need a couple of creative people to tell it exactly what they want and create their outlines, tell it to it, and it makes everything for them.
Unless it is not a human-to-human connection and it doesn't mean anything to the viewer.
Which some people probably, other people aren't going to care because they're just going to want to be entertained. And
so then you and me are gone. AI is going to replace you and me. It's like,
yeah. I mean, look, I really do think that AI is going to be a very big problem. And Andrew Yang was on the money with UBI when he was talking about it in 2016. But it's something that doesn't get talked about enough in depth with all these things that I laid out. And I think that robotics and AI, unless we get to a period of abundancy like Elon is talking, and I don't understand how we're going to get there, I think it's going to be really difficult because I think the disruption in jobs is going to be immense over the next couple of years.
Okay, so
really consider.
When you gave me this thesis, I said the same thing that Osiris said right here. Let's just buy Nvidia. Why does that not solve the problem?
I don't think that solves the problem. It's not everybody can just buy Nvidia or buy enough of it where it's going to matter, where they're going to be able to pay their bills.
But also, even if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars of Nvidia stock, if people don't have jobs, we don't have an economy. It doesn't matter if you have money. we need services and products, and you need people to not revolt against Jeff Bezos, because when everyone has nothing and one person has everything, you start that type of inequality. We've seen it historically. People revolt.
Yeah, and I was having a conversation with my dad about this over the weekend where things are shifting. You know, the older generation identified through work. My dad identified through work. I don't think that the younger generation or even me want to identify through work. And it's more, if you had the ability to provide for your family, but you could focus on things that you wanted to focus on, would you still have your regular job?
That's a good point.
I mean, you may be, because you're doing exactly what you want to do. Other people may not. Somebody who's an electrician may not want to put their body through that, or a construction worker may not want to put their body through that. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people that just don't want to commute back and forth from the office. Like, there's a lot of things to consider. And I don't think that we're having an honest conversation about where we're headed, or the potential for where we're headed, and how we're going to make sure that everybody has a standard of living that's achievable if job displacement really occurs. And I think it's inevitable at this point, because this is not the internet. This is not something where you are now creating connectivity and people are able to launch businesses and do everything. This is something that's going to replace what you can provide to the open market. That's the difference. The internet didn't allow coders to code. AI is going to allow AI to replace all coders. How do those people that have spent the past 10 years learning how to program computers or program Java, whatever, however you want to say it, how are they going to provide value to the economy?
And by the way, all those coders that have really nice tech salaries, they're the ones who buy a lot of the expensive services. If you don't have that salary anymore, you can't spend $20 on a lunch that easily.
It's going to be a very different thing. And then think about security. At what point do you have Optimus robots as security instead of humans? At some point, you got to think that they're going to have firefighters as Optimus bots, because now you don't really have to worry about safety as much to a degree. Like, there are things that there's a reason why on the battlefield they send robots into a minefield first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, not humanoid robots, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
Using
there's a
weapons,
reason.
drones.
Yeah, there's a reason that they do these things.
Okay,
I mean,
so what's the optimistic viewpoint here? How do people find meaning if everything is automated with AI?
I don't think that that's the question to ask, because I think that people have a lot of things that they're interested in that they could do. Look, some people will be happy just hanging out at home with their dog and watching TV. Other people will be happy playing golf. Other people will be happy taking hikes or running or working out. People will find happiness hanging out with their friends. If you could hang out with your friends all day instead of going to work, would you?
Yeah.
I mean, I think people will find happiness in other things very easily. I just think it's we're going down a dangerous slope with the economy and being able to make sure that we have maximum employment with how quickly AI and robotics is progressing.
Is there any argument you've thought of on AI creating the jobs, like people using it to just keep building out more jobs in different areas?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it becomes a consumer nation of content and that type of stuff. Maybe it's reels on steroids, where whatever your imagination can generate, you put on YouTube and you generate revenue from that. And people watch a 20-minute TV show that you thought of. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think everyone wants to be a content creator, though. That's like,
I agree with you. I have no idea, but it is going to be a vastly different world, and it's going to be very hard. I don't think people are really open to the idea because it's so scary to think about. I think about it all the time. Like, I legitimately think about this all the time, about what is the younger generation going to do? What is my generation going to do? What are humans going to do? Because I really do believe there's no putting this genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, I think Jensen, Elon, and these guys are trying to paint a more rosier picture.
Yeah, that's only going to happen if you get Neuralink put in your brain.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of progress for AI to become a meaningful multiplier of human skill. Because like I can't. I mean, what's a skill like drawing? I suck at. My mom's like we have paintings
Dude,
downstairs. I can't draw.
I've always wanted to be able to draw well. I can't do it for shit.
I'm gonna see if I have a picture of she's an amazing painter. I suck at drawing. If you could put a chip in my brain and I could start drawing, that's amazing. But can that turn into a business? Can I monetize that? I mean, that's like
I don't know.
It's tough.
I don't think so because the reason artists were able to make so much money back in the day, or that was a profession, or people were able to do things, is because you didn't have any other forms of entertainment the way you do now.
You had no supply for
I
entertainment.
mean, do people even go to museums anymore? Like that used to be a huge thing back in the 80s and 70s. Go to the Natural Museum of History and stuff like that. Is that even a thing anymore?
I went to MoMA, I think a couple years ago in New York.
But you haven't been since.
No, I was bored when I was there. I was just like, why am I staring?
That's my point. Like back in the day, that would have been something people would do like every month or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the answer is, but this is something that people really need to start thinking about. And I really hope the powers that be are having these conversations and trying to figure something out because it could potentially be very bad.
Well, two things. One, I don't think this is going to happen for at least another decade. So I think we have time.
I said 5 to 10 years.
Okay, so I think we have time to figure out. But number two, if there is a massive wealth inequality gap that heightens because of AI, aka the Nvidia shareholders get rich, but like everyone else who doesn't even know about the stock market is out of a job, there's no UBI, and they don't have any equity, people are not going to just sit still and watch other people engage in the luxuries of life in this new AI economy. Like people are going to fight back. We've seen it happen historically every time.
I agree.
So in order to keep society tame, everyone has to feel like they have a chance to participate in the American dream. As soon as that's gone, people fight back.
Yeah, maybe that's where we're headed. We're not going to know until it happens. But, you know, nobody's talking about these things. Yang was the only one. And he may have had some crazy ideas, but that wasn't one of them. I mean, we're going to really...
UBI, I don't know if that's realistic, bro.
I'm not saying it's realistic. I'm just saying that somebody's got to figure out a solution. Because you can't put this genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, I mean, like a UBI, because then who do we tax, right? Do we tax Tesla? Do we tax Nvidia? And then when we distribute it, AI is very deflationary. So it's not like giving people money would be super inflationary because we'll have the deflation as well. But who pays for it? Also, we got 36 trillion in debt. UBI is going to be adding on that.
I get it. I get it. But really think about it. You're a farmer and you have 20 people working in the fields for you. Optimus comes along and you can get more production out of Optimus and it's a one-time payment of 25 grand.
You fire them.
Are you telling me that you're not going to get rid of your employees or you're not going to get rid of half of them and keep it's just unit of economics. You're going to be able to produce more at a cheaper rate.
You know, Brad Gerstner's argument about every child is born with like $1,000 in the S&P.
7,000 in the S&P is what it should be. Yes.
I love that.
So I've said that for at least a decade. Ackman's been saying it. Gerstner's been saying it. It is way cheaper. I think the number was something like 3 million babies are born a year on average, or 3.5 million. $7,000 would be something like $21 billion. And it is vastly cheaper than Social Security. And you would have vastly more money after a 55-year period.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think that once everyone has a little bit of a nest egg by the time they're 18, which I didn't have when I was 18. You didn't have when you were like, we didn't know about the markets at that age. But the new generation that grows up with it, there's at least a better fighting chance in this economy. This is a ruthless economy, bro. Like, this is like, we talk about it all the time, but this is like this is not an easy. You've either got to be entrepreneurial and go out into the world and figure it out yourself, or you've got to work the corporate hustle. And in that corporate hustle, you can get fired at any instant.
Well, think about this, Matt. I also would say that putting 7,000. Think about the amount of money we spend. $7,000 for every baby. It's $21 billion a year. We spend that on crazy stuff. We can afford it if we cut something for $20 billion. It wouldn't be hard to do.
No.
Every baby is born with an equity stake in the 500 greatest companies in the country. You can't ask for a better way to be patriotic.
It's better than T-bills.
It's better than T-bills. It would be great. It would be absolutely great.
Because then those kids grow up, and when they turn 18 and they see they have equity, like, it changes their entire mindset on it.
And they want everything to do well. They want everything to grow. Gives them a sense of patriotism.
I'm so happy you said that. And for everyone saying, is Amit still alive? Yes, we're doing a special late night stream today. But now that I'm an investor, I want the economy to work. Because even if I'm not invested in Walmart, I know that Walmart will have an implication on my portfolio somehow, because it's freaking Walmart, right? So like, when you become an investor, you're like, oh yeah, things need to work. Interest rates need to be stable. Inflation needs to be normalized, etc. Because if it doesn't, no matter what stock you own, we've seen stocks go up and down at the exact same moment. Everything's contingent on everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a great idea, and you'd have to obviously wait until it would take 50 to 60 years to play out, because look, we didn't start soon enough. So everybody who's paid into the system for Social Security would still need to get their payouts. But the idea is, once you start, once those humans become of age for Social Security is now null and void, and their payments from that $7,000 you put into a Roth for them automatically pay them out instead of Social Security. And that's always been the idea of how to actually eliminate Social Security for good, and it'll cost you all at $21 billion a year.
Steve, what do you think about this? Trump's thinking of giving people $5,000 to have a baby.
I saw that.
Do you think that's necessary? Do you like? How are you thinking?
Why would that be necessary?
Because we have a low
$5,000 to have a baby doesn't do anything. What does it do?
I mean, you get $5,000. Like,
but what does it really do? That's not an incentive.
No, that means if I have 5 kids tomorrow, I get $25K.
And you'll be broke in 3 years.
25K is 25K, bro.
But in all seriousness, I mean, look, unfortunately, we are not in a society where having 3 or 4 or 5 kids is normal anymore. I mean, yeah, sure, Chris has 5 kids, but that's not normal.
Who's Chris? What are you talking about?
Data driven.
Oh, I was like, our Chris doesn't. Okay, yeah.
No, but I mean, I'm thinking about. I don't know anybody with more than 4, and that's far and few between. I mean, most people I know have 1 or 2.
But do you think that's an issue with AI? Is that if most people stop having kids, that could also?
If we didn't have to worry about money, I think you would have more kids. Yes. I think that it is a very big financial burden to have kids these days. And I think that's a deterrent for some people.
Dude, I heard the average was around, what was it, 400K for 18 years, which I think is conservative to have a kid.
Yeah, like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, college is very expensive. Just, I have no idea. It's got to be expensive to have a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. A lot of things. And look, the cost of living is crazy. We have a whole nother issue with housing, and that could be fixed tomorrow. Like, if anybody from the administration is listening to this, do not allow any companies to buy individual houses. And here's why.
Well, they're controlled by Larry Fink, so I think it's going to be
why. it is unfair for a United States citizen to get into a bidding war with a private equity company. Now, if a United States citizen gets into a bidding war with another citizen and one has more money, is willing to pay more money, that's fair game. But going against a corporation is not okay.
No, not at all.
Going against BlackRock is not okay, or Blackstone is not okay.
Bro, 2021 or 2020, when the rates were like at 3% mortgage rates, that's when they started buying up a shit ton of houses. And they bought them in cash. So there was no way anyone could compete with the BlackRock in your neighborhood.
You can't compete. Unless you're Bezos, you cannot compete. It is unfair and it destroys the housing market. I'm sorry, but there are houses that I'm seeing that should not be going for anything near what they are going for. And I'm not going to give too much information on one of them. One of my friends moved. Not going to say what he sold his house for or anything. All I will say is when the real estate broker told him what to put his house on the market for, he could not believe it. He called me that night, or actually called me the next day after everything happened. He tells me the story. The real estate broker told him to put it on for X. He thought it was an insane number. He would never get it. Had an open house, 3 offers that same day, all over ask. One of the offers was all cash also. The number that these houses are commanding is insane. And part of it is because of private equity, and it's not okay.
Yeah. No, not at all. And private equity got a great deal on that for the past couple of years. And they didn't have much competition to be able to swallow up those houses.
Yeah. REITs, private equity. I love REITs. Okay. But at the same time, I do think that REITs should only be commercial real estate or a mortgage, MREIT, a mortgage REIT, should not be owning individual homes. Now, if a REIT wants to own multifamily homes, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with them owning an apartment building. I am talking about single family homes. I have a problem with private equity being able to use that as an investment. It is not okay.
When did your friend sell the house? Recently?
I'll say 6 months ago. Maybe 8 months ago, because he just finished building his new one. I think he just moved in another month.
I do think, I know we're painting a gloomy picture here, but I do think there will be an age of abundance, but I don't think any of us can explain how that abundance
How
will
we get there or when we get there, I don't think anybody can explain or.
Well, here's the thing. Why are Google and Amazon spending hundreds of billions of dollars if they can't? The way to monetize it is to sell a product or service, right? Which means people have to have the money to buy it from them.
I can't get into too much detail about this, but I'm going to say something and give me a little bit of rope, and don't ask questions because I really can't say much. I was talking to a company and discussing their AI capabilities, and it was more around the cost of building a chatbot and stuff. And I think you've looked into this type of stuff, so you'll be able to know what I'm talking about and if I'm bullshitting or not.
Yeah.
But in order to put a question in, do the query and get the answer out was going to cost me something like 4 or 5 cents.
Yeah, it's cheap.
It's very cheap unless it's very scalable.
Yes, correct.
And then it becomes a very big expense, because I was looking at doing it internally for a few things and trying to figure out how we could streamline a few things. And it's what I want to do is a good idea. I just think it's going to be a little expensive and it's not really worth the money yet. I think prices have to come down, but the things that you're already able to do, I don't think people realize what you could actually do with AI right now. Like, it's pretty wild. It's just the cost on a scalable level becomes very expensive. But at some point when those costs come down, I mean.
Well, OpenAI put out their cost per million tokens. You've got vector databases and retrieval augmented generation. You can build custom LLMs. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do, but it goes to your point. If people don't have the money to pay for any of these services because they don't have jobs because of AI, then all this CapEx spend is bullshit.
Well, no,
right?
It's not bullshit because it's actually money being spent. Like,
well, it's being spent. like Facebook is spending money on Nvidia GPUs to better train their ads. Their ads are only valuable if their advertisers get an ROI. If this gloom and doom future where no one has money to even spend on ads, then Facebook doesn't make any money, right? Like there's got to be an age of abundance to all of this money that's being spent.
I agree with you.
None of us know what that meant.
I am not smart enough to understand how we get there.
Yeah.
But I think I'm rational enough to understand that we're in a position that things are going to change pretty drastically over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and I think the core thing to this thesis as well is productivity. Like margins got to go up to justify a lot of this. That's what will create the deflationary effects as well, which will get costs to come down. And then it's a question of, do people have the jobs to benefit from all that?
Yeah, I mean, look,
because a quick example, as a content creator, my job is to put out more content and to help me create more content. I can use ChatGPT and Grok and all these like video editing softwares to quickly and more efficiently get content out in the world. What does that do for me? That allows me to make more content. And making more content allows me to progress as a content creator, gain a bigger audience, all that stuff. I see AI every day increasing my productivity. But if content creators don't exist in the future because AI's replaced them, then what's the point, right? I think that's the argument.
So think about this. Back in whatever year it was, 98% of the jobs was farming. Okay. Now it's roughly 2% of the jobs in the country because of what? Machinery, tractors, automation, et cetera, et cetera. The difference is all those people were able to get other jobs doing other things.
Yeah.
When that happens in this time around, and it's coming from multiple sectors, there aren't going to be those other sectors to move into. I don't know how this works out well for the entire job market.
Eric says, as Amit gets more productive, his viewers get less productive. Dude, the amount of people that work from home and that are just watching the stream and seeing them either lose money on a red day or make money on the green, it's hilarious. Like, people are not working from home. They're probably automating some shit with AI, to be honest. So,
and look, think about all the science fiction movies everybody thought was crazy, but are coming true. Like, and I'm not saying robots are going to take over and wage war on us, but like Terminator situation with humanoid robots is becoming a real thing.
Dude, I don't think anyone can doubt the 50-50 probability that we create AGI that is smart enough inside of a physical manifestation of a bot, and the bot ends up thinking one day, fuck this human, I'm going to do my own shit. Like, how do we think that's not remotely possible?
You know, we've had movies that predicted self-driving cars and all this other stuff. All that stuff's happening. At what point does it happen on the medical side? Like, seriously, at what point do you have robotics doing surgeries without human intervention or human control? I don't think we're that far away. I gotta think that's next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and it should be more effective than a regular surgeon. Like, my car is a way better driver than me.
What about a dentist?
Should be better than a regular dentist, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think it's crazy to think that. Or, okay, what happens when you really apply the full resources of AI to genomics? Are we going to be able to cure every disease in the next 10 years? Maybe. Are we going to be able to cure cancer? Are we going to be able to regrow limbs? Maybe.
I mean, Neuralink is doing some like but that I feel like that should be something we're excited for and happy.
100%. The fact that they just brought back dire wolves from a piece of DNA, okay? Why is it that we won't be able to, if somebody loses a limb, replace their limb? Why wouldn't we be able to do that in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, there's a lot of things to be excited about that are going to make life so much better. I'm worried about the job aspect, but I think there's so many net benefits on this.
And dude, all of this at the end of the day, we're talking about curing diseases, bringing people's limbs back. Nvidia, like all of it's Nvidia. Like every company that even thinks of remotely beginning that process will need GPUs, and they're going to need even better ones than Blackwell, Hopper, Rubin, etc. over the next decade.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think gene sequencing is going to be huge. I'm not smart enough to know which companies to invest in, but CRISPR's always been very interesting because you got to think that, I mean, you saw what Larry Ellison said with Masa's son and Sam Altman, that in the next 5 years, I think he said that they're going to be able to create MDRA vaccines for individual diseases.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the guy bought Cerner. He bought Cerner and he runs Oracle. And now he's teaming up with Altman and Masason. I got to think that they may know something about what they're doing.
Yeah. It's going to be an exciting future. It's going to be an exciting future.
It's going to be an exciting future, but what's the damage going to be done to get to that future?
Yeah,
That's the question.
Steve kind of talked to me about this thesis about a week ago, and I've been thinking about it ever since as well. It's like, if we don't have a multiplication of jobs, society falls apart. Like, you can't have all this productivity without barreling that into people's not only purpose, but people's ability to generate income, which allows them to then spend on all the amazing things that we're creating.
Forget about the U.S. What happens in China and India, where you have 1.5 to 2 billion people?
Yeah.
I mean, what happens to the global? This isn't a U.S. problem. This is a global society problem.
Yeah, and you know, this conversation gets so much deeper. We'll probably have to continue on another day. But based on the documentaries I've been watching about China, I'm sure you know about this. I'm sure the chat knows about this as well. But back in 2010, Xi Jinping launched a mass censorship campaign. The idea was, let's monitor everything people say. Now, in 2010, they didn't really have AI. So he employed literally millions of people to work for the government, to every, like, their version of Facebook comment and that comes out, they have to make sure it doesn't say something degrading about the administration. Now they're using AI to automate a lot of that stuff. And so if AI gets even more powerful, what does that mean in the context of control in a dictatorship? I mean, these are really complicated questions.
Yeah, look, they are. And there's no right or wrong answer. We're just going to have to see what happens. I just hope that the powers that be are really looking at this, because it's going to could be an existential threat at this point.
Yeah, and it's going to help governments if they want to crack down and be more authoritarian, the ability to. But what does that mean for their citizens, right? Like, there's so many nuances to this, but I think all of it comes back down to the top AI companies, and as investors, at least in the next 5 to 10 years, I think allocating capital there makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really do think entertainment's going to be one of the most disrupted areas, because how many times have you just shut something off, or you can't find? I go through it all the time where I can't find something to watch, but if I could just tell it, remake 2.5 Men for me and make new episodes of it from the first couple of years, because I think those are the funniest episodes, I can just have an endless amount of content to watch.
So I agree with you there, but I also think that people have a connection to content creators, and like, it's hard to replace the Joe Rogan podcast.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about content creators that have brand and people enjoy. I'm talking about movies and TV shows. I'm talking about you have the ability to create, okay? Everybody likes hearing other people's opinions. I think Rogan and stuff like that, that's very authentic, can be fine. But when I go into Netflix and Hulu and I can't find anything to watch, and I end up rewatching a TV show that I've already watched,
yeah,
why can't I say, okay, the unit was only 4 seasons? Why can't I tell it, make me a 5th season of the unit, 10 episodes? Why can't I say Seinfeld ended after season 8 or 9? Make me another season. I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
That would be a lot of compute, though, to make a whole season of the unit. Like, we would need compute costs to go down for Netflix to just whip up a season for you, like, or YouTube or whatever that.
But think about it. If people are spending $20 or $30 anyway to purchase a season, why wouldn't it move to a model, purchase the content that you want, instead of purchasing a library of stuff that you may or may not want to watch.
99% of Netflix is trash to me. I agree.
I agree.
It's a good
But
point.
what if it becomes you pay a subscription for Netflix and then you pay and you have credits and you pay for building out stuff? These are my interests. These are my top 5 movies in this category. Make me a new movie. These are my top 5 TV shows in this category. Make me a new TV show or make me an additional season.
Oh, this is a good point. But you're not going to be able to talk to other people about those AI generated shows, which is the whole point of content, right?
Is it though? It's for entertainment. I'm not getting into a conversation about somebody about my feelings on the unit.
But how many times have you told me about a movie? Like if it's some AI movie, then we can't talk about
Right,
it.
but that doesn't matter.
I think it matters. It's
It's
important.
not going to matter. It's going to be a different age. It's not going to matter.
Yeah,
Look,
I mean,
think about this. The Color of Money, there has not been a sequel to it. Color of Money is 40 years old. It's going to be 40 years old.
I know it's a great movie.
You've never seen it, but I could just
have
tell it to
seen it.
make me a sequel to The Color of Money.
Tom Cruise, Paul Newman. What are you talking about?
I know, because I told you to watch it. You didn't watch it.
No, freaking Mary Elizabeth Master-Antonio.
You just typed it in. That's why
No,
you
no,
know it.
I don't know. What are you talking about? I don't have I'm staring at you.
There's a lot of things.
IMDb 7 out of 10. I mean, it's a great movie, but yeah, I think obviously replicating that can be something that people get their own.
If you've seen the movie, what is the famous song that plays when he is playing in the pool hall? Or what is the name of the pool cue he uses?
The name. Hold on. The name of the pool cue.
Yeah, the brand. He shows
Why
it.
would I know that?
Because it's a focal point of the movie. Because Fast Eddie gives him the pool cue. Somebody in the chat already said it.
Okay, it's been a while since I've watched it, so I wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
That's takes a little bit, but dude, you guys, why do you guys know every freaking movie reference? Oh my gosh, Granny Stick. I don't know what. This
No,
is.
it's the Babushka.
Babushka. Dude, World War II though, that shit was crazy. The whole fucking
Go watch Band of Brothers, please.
Bro, everyone hated everyone. Like, when people say World War III, I don't think they realize how insane World War II was. Like,
You don't want to get to World War III. World War III is nukes.
no, we're done. We're done. It's over.
You're not getting there.
You know, I had a dream on Saturday. It's probably because I watched the documentary. I had a dream. I don't know if you've had a dream like this before. I've had multiple dreams like this over the years, but it was such an explicit dream.
Where you swear it was real and you can't believe it wasn't real. I've been there.
1000%, right?
Yeah,
So
I've
I'm in
been
my
there.
room. My mom and dad are in their room. I'm walking around the house. I look out the window. Someone drops a nuke in New Jersey. And slowly by slowly, my vision starts deteriorating. Mom and dad, I hear sounds. I can't see anything. It starts going black. And then I end up just like lying on my bed as my vision starts going to zero. And then I tell myself, oh shit, I'm about to find out what life is like after you die. I'm literally telling myself, all right, is there a heaven? Is there a God? It's time to find out. Like let's do it, baby. And then I wake up and I'm like, it's like my soul came right back into me. And I was like, holy shit, did I just die in a nuclear war and then come back to life? Like I was shook the whole day, bro. The whole day. I'm sure people have had dreams like that before. I did not check my portfolio in my dream. No, I didn't. But that's imagine, bro. And then I'm thinking of the poor kids in Hiroshima and Nagasaki that are playing on a random Wednesday and a freaking nuke gets dropped and they see it in the corner of their eye and then within seconds they're vaporized. Like, it is just the scariest shit ever to imagine that would be happening on a worldwide scale.
Yeah. War is horrible.
No, he woke up and checked bond yields. No, actually I did, bro. I checked the market, but the market was closed.
Yeah, it is crazy that you look at bond yields at 3 a.m. Crazy.
I was not drunk, dude. But you guys haven't had that dream. But you know, there's a theory. It's not even, I think it's scientifically, you cannot die in a dream. There's not even like a conspiracy. You cannot die in a dream. If anyone's had an experience where they've died in a dream, you wake up immediately. And I've had like at least 10 or 15 dream deaths, and then I immediately wake up.
Okay.
But scientifically, no, you don't believe me, bro. You look it up. You cannot die. in a
No, I'm just saying that, you know, it's a depressing topic you're talking about.
I'm just saying. Well, you said AI is going to kill all of us. I'm just saying.
I never said that.
Well, my point is, World War III would be not good.
No, it'd be freaking horrible. It'd be horrible.
Dude, Inception is the best movie of all time. I don't care what anyone's. Inception is actually I can debate anyone for the next 100 years. Inception is the best movie of all time.
You haven't seen enough movies to make a claim.
I don't care. I don't need to see The Color of Money or freaking Goodfellas or The Godfather or Terminator. Like, Inception's the greatest movie of all time.
You haven't seen enough movies.
It's just that simple. It's Inception.
Did you watch The Social Network?
Yes. Oh, that's a great movie. I've seen that like 5 times. That's a great movie.
I actually enjoy it a lot. I think it's a very good movie.
Love that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Did you? I may have to watch 21 again. I haven't seen that in a while.
That's with the poker cards, right?
Yeah, the MIT card counting team.
That's a great movie too. I mean, it's not like top 10 or anything, but it's a good movie.
You watched it?
I love that movie. Yeah, Kevin Spacey.
It was very entertaining. Very good.
Movies with gambling, poker, markets, I can pay attention to.
But you won't watch Molly's Game.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't.
Molly's Game was great, by the way.
I got to try it.
Okay, think about this. Rounders. There's been no sequel to Rounders. You can have AGI make you a sequel to Rounders.
No, I agree. Rounders is a great movie.
Rounders is freaking great.
I watched Rounders twice. I like it.
Yeah, I probably watched Rounders a good 15, 20 times. It's incredible.
Yeah, but if we could make like I always ask you, give me a good stock market movie. If I could tell AGI, give me a really good stock market movie, that would be, yeah, I'd pay for that, dude.
Yes, and that may be something that happens.
Yeah,
it is. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of things that I think people should be thinking about, and what I would rather see the government really have discussions about this, like we're talking about, than other things that they bicker about, because these are going to be real world problems that need to get solved.
Yeah, but Trump doesn't have to worry about what we're talking about in this second term at all, in my opinion. We're far away from him.
Everybody is going to need to worry about this stuff.
That's fair. I think the next president definitely, as we get into the 2030s.
I tried getting him to watch Margin Call. I tried.
I've seen it, bro. It's boring. I don't know why people swear by Margin Call. It's Big Short is 1 trillion times better than Margin Call.
Big Short is arguably the best market movie there is.
Yes.
But it's not really a market movie, but it is a market movie because it's not stocks, but it is. The Big Short is just so freaking good.
Yeah, and I think you have to watch it twice, because the first time I watched it, I didn't know what a CDO was. But the second time, I was like, oh, I kind of understand what's going on with the mortgage-backed securities. So that and Wolf of Wall Street, I think, are...
Wolf of Wall Street is great. Now, when you watched the Madoff thing, did you watch the HBO one? Or did you watch...
The Netflix one.
The Netflix one?
Yeah. It was a while ago. That was like 4 or 5 years ago.
You got to watch the one on HBO with De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, they remade it with De Niro?
De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer did it. It was so good.
Okay.
It was incredible.
All right.
Absolutely incredible.
All right. I think we'll end it there. Thank you, everybody, for joining. 2 hours and 33 minutes. Steve wanted to talk more about Tesla. We got through a lot of topics. Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir, all the chapters will be in the description. And yeah, everyone appreciates you, Steve. So thank you for joining.
I didn't realize it was 11:30 already.
It is 11:30. And we've been talking for 2.5 hours. Do you have any articles on Alpha this week coming out?
Yeah, one came out this morning.
Oh, you made the Alpha Beauty article. You did it.
Yeah, that was a couple days ago.
Okay, so we got it. Next time you're on, we got to talk about Elf Beauty. We got to talk about
Yeah, that one. I think Verizon may be coming out tomorrow.
All right. There you go.
So,
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. In about 7 hours, we will be live for the market open. We got a green futures, green after hours, and hopefully we can continue it for the rest of the week. All right. Why are you laughing? Oh my God. Dude, like, it'll be 9:34 a.m., 4 minutes after the market open. Where's Steve? Where's Steve? Like, they don't believe you have a real job. They don't believe that you're busy. They just expect you to be here. And every time you come on the stream, it makes people have the expectation that, oh, Steve's always available, so just call Steve. And I'm like, no, he picked up this time. That doesn't mean he's always going to be there. Like, they love you. They love you so much. So, thank you, Steve, for having me on. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you.
You're
when the market
welcome.
opens tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye.